of the Committee on Finance, Subcommittee B, is hereby called to order. I welcome you all to this budget briefing on the proposed 2025 budget of DNR and its attached agency, namely the Environmental Management Bureau, the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, the National Mapping and Resource Information Authority, the National Water Resources Board, and the Palawan Council for Sustainable Development. Also included in our agenda today are the proposed 2025 budget of the Local Water Utilities Administration and the Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System Regulatory Office, both LUWA and MWAS, which are government-owned and controlled corporations, are considered as attached agencies of DNR under Executive Order Number 22 issued in April 2023, which created the Water Resources Management Office. At this point, let me acknowledge the presence of the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Maria Antonio Tony Loizaga, as the head of the DNR contingent. And we will ask our committee secretary for Subcommittee B, Attorney Philip Lina, to acknowledge our other resource persons for our budget briefing today.
Yes, Madam Chair. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I will call your names and kindly acknowledge to be recognized. The Secretary, Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga, was earlier acknowledged by the Chair. Attorney Ernesto D. Adobo Jr., Undersecretary for Legal and Administration. Attorney Analisa Revuelta T., Undersecretary for Finance, Information Systems and Climate Change. Attorney Jonas R. Leones, Undersecretary for Policy Planning and International Affairs. Attorney Juan Miguel T. Cuna, Undersecretary for Field Operations, Luzon, Visayas, and Supervising Undersecretary for Mines and Geosciences Bureau, Luzon and Visayas, Environmental Management Bureau, Luzon and Visayas. Yusek Jocelyn Marcos E. Fragada, Undersecretary for Field Operations, Mindanao, and Supervising Undersecretary for Mines. Environmental Management Bureau. Yusek Augusto de la Peña, Undersecretary for Organizational Transformation and Human Resources. Dr. Carlos Primo C. David, Undersecretary for Integrated Environmental Science. Attorney Norleto A. Eneran, Assistant Secretary for Legal Affairs and Enforcement. Bureau Directors, ASEC Jacqueline A. Kaankan, Assistant Secretary for Environment, Director of Environmental Management Bureau in concurrent capacity. ASEC OIC Assistant Director Armida Andres for the Biodiversity Management Bureau. Engineer Michael V. Cabalda, Assistant Secretary for Mining Concerns, OIC Director for Mines and Geosciences Bureau in concurrent capacity. ASEC Arley J. Adorable, OIC Assistant Secretary for Field Operations, Mindanao, in concurrent capacity, Director for Forest Management Bureau. Attorney Emeline Talabis, Director for Land Management Bureau. Miss Laura Melin E. Claudio, Director, Ecosystems Research and Development Bureau. From the attached agencies, Dr. Peter N. Chanco, Administrator, National Mapping Resource and Information Authority. From the Laguna Lake Development Authority, Engineer Emil Hernandez, OIC Assistant General Manager. Mr. Teodoro Jose Mata, Executive Director, Palawan Council for Sustainable Development. Attorney Ricky Arzadon, Executive Director, National Water Resources Board. Deputy Administrator Rosan Perez and Chairman Rooney Ong, LUWA, Local Water Utilities Administration. Attorney Patrick Lester W.T., MWS Regulating Office. Yusek Ignatius A. Rodriguez, Undersecretary for Special Concerns and Legislative Affairs. Mr. Jacob Mimban, Executive Director, Manila Bay Coordinating Office. That's all for now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Begins the Subcommittee B of the Committee on Finance to discuss the proposed budget for 2025 of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and its attached agency. This budget is essential for the DNR to fulfill its vital role in the conservation, management, and sustainable use of our nation's natural resources. The proposed 2025 new appropriations for DNR amount to 26,226,246,000 pesos. This allocation will support the operation and program of the following offices: the Office of the DNR, including its 4 staff bureau, the BMB, the LMB, the FMB, and the ERDB. Also include DNR's field offices in the regions, provinces, and in certain cities and municipalities. The 2-line bureaus of DMR are the EMB, the Environmental Management Bureau, and the Mines and Geosciences Bureau. The 3 attached agencies, namely the NAMRIA, the NWRB, and the PCSD. The government corporation attached to DNR by virtue of Executive Order Number 22, Series of 2023, are the LUA and the MWAS. Before ba, kanino under itong LUA and MWAS? Before the PD? So DPWH to that.
OP, the Office of the President. The MWSS was previously under the Office of the President.
Lahat office.
Ma'am, for LUWA po, it's from DPWH.
DPWH.
Yes, ma'am.
And yung MWAS,
We are under the Office of the President before.
before you were transferred to
To the
DNR.
DNR. We were, originally we were under the DPWH, then we were transferred to the OP, then we were transferred to the DNR.
Please note that the proposed 2025 DNR budget does not include the 3 other attached GOCCs of DNR, namely the Laguna Lake Development Authority, the Philippine Mining Development Corporation, and the Natural Resources Development Corporations, as these GOCCs do not get budget allocation from the national government. Through our deliberations today, we aim to ensure that the DNR's proposed budget for 2025 will be utilized efficiently in fulfilling the responsibilities that fall under the mandate of the DNR. While the proposed budget may appear modest considering the breadth of DNR's responsibility, it is crucial that we work to maximize these resources. We must ensure that the funds are allocated efficiently to address the agency's critical functions, hence contributing to a nation that sustains its natural resources and ensures a clean and healthy environment for all. So we will now recognize Secretary Tony Yulo Loizaga for her remarks and presentation of the proposed budget of DNR and its attached agencies and government corporation.
Good morning and thank you, Madam Chair. If I may just go over briefly our budget proposal for the DNR for 2025. Next slide, please. Madam Chair, for the work of the DNR, we are guided by the following: the Philippine Development Plan of 2023 to 2028, our commitments internationally to the Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework under the Convention on Biodiversity, and the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction for our disaster risk reduction work. Primarily. Next slide, please. Madam Chair, these are the presentations of the accomplishments as of June 2024, along with the targets for 2025. Without going through this individually, Madam Chair, allow me to state that these are program areas of the DNR that have been recognized as items by the DBM. The first would be the Protected Area Development and Management Program for effectively managing the protected areas and biodiversity resources. As you may see, Madam Chair, for 2024, we have already conducted our procurement process for 54 drones or UAVs that we will be using for the PA-specific concept of operations. This was a result, Madam Chair, of the realignment of part of the previous NGP budget to actually the protected area, forest areas that need to be monitored and conserved. We have completed the 113 legislated PAs profiling, and we have produced already the general primer for the country. 89 out of 131 pakbarmas, Madam Chair, have also been assessed. These are the protected area agreements with the different community-based organizations, 19 of which have been canceled. Of the 113 profiled legislated PAs, we have already mapped out, Madam Chair, 96 of them for illegal structures and issued the necessary NOVs, cease and desist orders, and notices to vacate and have cases filed. This listing, Madam Chair, we will submit directly to your office. In the 2025 targets, we would like to continue strengthening our compliance monitoring and evaluation of the pakbarmas. We understand that there might be further action that will be required. Case build-up for suspension and cancellation of other certificates of non-coverage and ECCs are also ongoing. But more importantly, Madam Chair, we will be establishing as well new areas for plantations, and another development, Madam Chair, would be to produce the flora and fauna inventory for an initial set of 30 legislated PAs that would be very important to our own conservation strategies moving forward. Related to this, Madam Chair, this is just an example of the primers that we have been preparing and the profiles. As you will see there, Madam Chair, the profile is of the Chocolate Hills National Monument, and this is a result, of course, of our continued work to see how our protected areas are challenged, as well as how they can be made more successful in their mandate to be protected and conserved. We have convened the Multisectoral Advisory Council, and we are now working on some changes, proposed changes in the constitution of the PAMBI, if we may suggest, and we will be coming up with the memos and proposals for this, and the reevaluation schemes for protected area management zoning, including the use and the designation of multiple use zones and strict protection zones. And then, of course, we will be looking at assessing the management performance of our different PAs. Madam Chair, just as a brief message, final message on this area, the challenge that we have encountered on the protected areas has been to actually inventory prior rights and any proclamations that have been issued, as well as land classifications prior to the enlisting of the PAs as legislated. And this is ongoing now for us to actually determine how the management of these areas may be made fully effective. Next slide, please. For the natural capital accounting, this is the support to the PENCAS law, Madam Chair. We are scaling up the accounting of our natural ecosystem services as well as stock, and the valuation of the services as well. So in the 2024 accomplishments, we have new ecosystem accounts developed for the following: Masinloc, Mount Matalangahan, Puerto Princesa, Cleopatra's Needle Forest Reserve, Siargao Island Protected Landscape and Seascape. We are now updating our ecosystem accounts for carbon for Palawan, and continue, of course, on the ongoing development of two ecosystem accounts, Santo Tomas Watershed and Tago River. For the next year, Madam Chair, we need to, in fact, continue developing new site-specific ecosystem accounting to support PENCAS, and we will be applying a new approach and tool called Sukat ng Kalikasan, which was developed specifically for our Philippine context. Next slide, please. On coastal and marine ecosystems and resources management, we're looking at enhancing the resilience of our coastal and marine areas. And you will see here, Madam Chair, an example of the accomplishment of the Philippine Space Agency and the DNR in collaboration with citizen scientists and our state colleges and universities. This is the first ever Philippine mangrove map that has been produced by the use of satellite imagery, citizen science, and AI. And we are strengthening as well this year 22 marine protected area networks and established as well 9 new ones. For 2020-2025, Madam Chair, we will be working on the restoration and protection of the mangrove areas within 30 provinces that are vulnerable to storm surge, and strengthening 26 existing MPANs, as well as establishing 9 new ones. As you will see, Madam Chair, we have fairly good now information and data on the extent of mangroves in the country. The next step here would be to assess the health of this mangrove system using the satellite imagery and ground truthing approaches that we have developed with the Philippine Space Agency. Next slide, please. Also in 2024, Madam Chair, we have been able to now identify the areas for the land areas for our new marine scientific research stations in the different biogeographic regions of the country. Attendant to this, we have also looked at, with our colleagues from the UP Marine Science Institute, the climate exposure of these different areas in order for us to determine what should be the research agenda as well as the action agenda for these areas. So the 5 new marine stations have been identified as to site: Punta Pari, Cagayan, Barangay Diabcong, Kasiguran, Aurora, Barangay Ngolos, Calikuan Island in Giwan, Samar, and Barangay Lumban of Sagun, Bisagun in Zamboanga del Sur, and Kawas Alabel in Sarangani Province. There will be 2 co-managed private sector with the private sector and academe, Madam Chair, one in Anido, Palawan, and one in Pag-asa Island as well. And then we will be upgrading the stations in Snake Island, existing already, and to Bataha Reef Natural Park, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. On wildlife protection and conservation, we are strengthening the habitat restoration, captive breeding programs, hopefully to be developed for each, and the enforcement of wildlife protection and conservation. The 5 species you see, Madam Chair, here are the 5 species that received species-specific funding for our GAA in 2024, the Philippine eagle, the tamarao, Palawan kakadu, the dugong, and marine turtles. We are now working with our conservation partners in the NGO community, as well as private sector partners, in order to enhance the conservation of these species, along with others that have been identified by the Biodiversity Management Bureau. Specifically, Madam Chair, the pangolin and the crocodile will be added to this list in the following year, in 2025. However, we are still challenged in terms of the number of species that are threatened and vulnerable, numbering to about 2,000 flora and fauna species. And therefore, we are limited, of course, by our efforts, by the budgets available. And so strategic partnerships are our work moving forward together with universities, with conservation partners, and the private sector and communities as well. Next slide, please. On the Enhanced National Greening Program, Madam Chair, we aim to increase forest cover and the employment generated related to forestry. In 2024, Madam Chair, we have mapped out already 1.2 million hectares of potential investment in forest activities, whether they be for timber, forest for carbon, flood management, and water supply, among others. Seedlings have been distributed and commodities planted over 17,000 hectares of denuded forest lands, and we also have plantations that have been maintained. Jobs that have been generated number in 46,995. Some individuals have, of course, evolved in terms of the number of jobs that they will actually take up in plantation establishment, maintenance, and protection. We have also engaged, Madam Chair, for 2024, and it's already almost completion, a third-party assessment of the graduated sites. So we are now at the 76% total sample area of the total areas that were assigned to them. In 2025, Madam Chair, we aim to open up to investors in terms of the 1.2 million hectares for investment, as mentioned earlier, so that we can increase and accelerate our deforestation efforts and target and focus these to actually achieve other related impacts such as increasing water supply and flood management. We will be planting more than 7.8 million seedlings over rehabilitated areas and maintaining over 44,000 hectares of existing plantations under the ENGP, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. On enforcement and protection, we aim to, of course, neutralize as much as possible the 50% of illegal logging hotspot areas by 2028, and this will come in a very calibrated way, Madam Chair. As you know, the DNR does not have a full enforcement capability, and this is one of the institutional needs that have been presented both to the House and to the Senate in order for the enforcement capacity of the DNR to be enhanced. So as far as the 2024 June, we have patrolled already 177.63 kilometers of forest protection by forest protection officers. 35 storage facilities, Madam Chair, have been constructed for turned over logs and confiscated illegal forest products. We have also established fire lines, Madam Chair. This year, we experienced extensive fires in the Benguet area, and this is always a challenge when we have an El Nino year. And then we have also apprehended 6.4 million board feet of undocumented forest products, including logs and lumber. Madam Chair, I should say that among the logs and lumber that have been apprehended and can be released, we are also sending a good number of these in the north to our countrymen in Batanes who will be needing reconstruction in the aftermath of the last typhoon. So for 2025, we hope to enable another patrolling of another 108,348 kilometers by our forest protection officers, safeguarding of the new storage facilities, and we will be working closely with the DepEd and TESDA and other government agencies to see how this lumber might be put to good use. Firefighting tools and PPEs are among the investments for 2025, and the assessment of the illegal logging hotspots all the way to reach our targets for 2028. Next slide, please. On integrated water resources management, Madam Chair, we aim to achieve food, energy, and water security, and of course, maintain the ecological integrity of our water systems and watersheds, and resiliency against the water hazards related hazards that are enhanced, of course, by climate change. What we have done here, Madam Chair, is work very carefully with other agency partners. You will see here on the map actually a collaboration that is evolving with the Department of Energy, wherein with the mapping of all the surface water bodies in the country, we are also able to identify potential hydropower sources and of course multipurpose dams as well. So two policies have been issued by and spearheaded by the WRMO, the Water Resources Management Office. One was the Unified Resource Allocation Framework for Water and Program Convergence Budgeting for Water Projects. We are also able to identify, Madam Chair, that around 11 unserved barangays in the uplands and islands were also provided with ongoing, and this is now ongoing, water supply systems for drinking water. 100 letters of interest, Madam Chair, were the result of an outreach to the private sector and development partners to develop water resources that were identified given the mapping that has been completed of all the surface water in the country. So the potential areas for hydropower, irrigation, renewable energy were all part of the related impacts of this work that has been completed by the WRMO. In 2025, Madam Chair, we hope to service 10,000 households for their level 3 water supply, 2 provincial-scale bulk water programs that will be worked on with the PPP and the council. 10 isolated barangays additionally will be provided with drinking water supply systems, and 10 water districts, hopefully for optimization and efficiency and conversion to solar power as the source of power. We also aim to complete a nationwide mapping of our groundwater resources, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. On land management and governance, the aim here would be to ensure economic growth and sustainable land use, improve tenure security and the socio-economic conditions of local communities, improve foreshore area management and potential areas for investments. So our accomplishments, Madam Chair, for 2024 number in 1,428 special patents for school sites, housing, LGUs, and national government agencies. 27,584 agricultural and 27,805 residential free patents have been issued. 72 agreements and 90 permits covered by foreshore lease agreements were also issued. I should also add, Madam Chair, this is the first year we have a comprehensive listing of foreshore lease agreements by the central office. Initially, in the previous years, these were actually decentralized, and so we now have the capability to map out all of these foreshore lease agreements. And there was ongoing foreshore delineation in 16 barangays in regions 1, 3, and 5. For 2025, Madam Chair, we aim to improve land tenure security by issuing additional special patents for school sites, housing, LGUs, and NGAs, and additional agricultural and residential free patents numbering in over 8,000 each. We are profiling idle government lands and patrimonial properties for government projects in collaboration with other government agencies. We will be delineating foreshore areas in 215 barangays, and we are targeting a revenue from the foreshore lease agreements of 692 million pesos. Next slide, please. For mineral resource development, we are very aware that the contribution of the mining sector to GDP is only at 0.53 of 1%, and we hope that in fact at this point we will be able to contribute more by the end of 2024. We are now directly employing this sector about 235,661 persons. However, in related industries, the estimate by some private sector organizations is that the total employment, direct and indirect, reaches around 800,000 to 1 million individuals. Our production values are as presented, Madam Chair, in terms of the production value for first semester of 119.6 billion, total exports in US dollars of 3.544 billion, and taxes and royalties in Philippine pesos of 2.5 billion. We have issued and we aim to issue mining permits to responsible mining companies and other parties. In 2025, the target would be at around 4,211, possibly, given the evaluation of these applicants. And the mining permits and contracts monitored as to compliance, we are targeting 715 operations, and that will bring us to about 61.4 million in terms of budget requirement. Next slide, please. So in terms of resources development, Madam Chair, as of June 2024, we are really at a point where only 30% of the country's lands of high mineral potential, with 8.26 high mineral potential areas only explored and operated. Accomplishments as of 2024, there have been 719 mining rights approved, 38 exploration permits, 298 MPSAs, and then the list accordingly as presented, Madam Chair. For 2024 as well, 11 areas were explored for potential establishment of new mineral reservation areas. 5 additional Minahang Bayans were declared as of 2023 and into 2024, and 2 areas with copper gold deposits as potential source of critical minerals for the country and for the global market have been surveyed. For 2025, the target is really to develop value-adding activities. We work very closely with the DTI, and internationally there has been a very great demand for collaboration with the Philippines. In exploring, of course, we would like to explore additional 3 areas for the potential establishment of new mineral reservations, assess 2 additional areas for critical minerals, and assess 2 new areas for offshore studies as well. We intend to also reach out to Minahang Bayan potential and issue around 8 additional Minahang Bayan sites. Next slide, please. On air quality, Madam Chair, by 2028, we hope that 70% of our highly urbanized areas and major urban centers are already within the guidelines that are established internationally as well as here locally. For 2024, 119 air quality monitoring stations were installed and operated. 22 air sheds have been operationalized and are monitored. We have over 19,000 permits to operate issued through the online permitting and monitoring system, over 1,300 certificates of conformity, 264 certificates of non-coverage and of e-vehicles were issued. All in all, we have monitored 10,218 firms and surveyed 2,823. Madam Chair, on enforcement here, we have also issued 5,029 notices of violation and also collected the corresponding fines. For 2025, we will be procuring additional air quality monitoring equipment. These are, of course, subject to the evaluation of new technologies that might be available, so we can multiply that quantity. Monitoring of at least 18,053 firms to ensure environmental compliance. The DNR, Madam Chair, actually maintains a continuous emissions monitoring system at the EMB, wherein 30 of the 35 coal plants are actually monitored, as well as 15 of the cement plants are monitored live. We are also, Madam Chair, participating internationally with NASA, and this is a project that is for the region that includes Thailand, Malaysia, and South Korea. And this will actually allow us to analyze what is in our atmosphere between the satellite image and the ground monitoring stations. This will be used to actually validate our own findings on the ground and, of course, introduce the necessary intervention to address pollution levels and forecast trends. Next slide, please. On water quality management of the EMB, Madam Chair, we want to increase the percentage of water bodies that are, of course, in conformity with the guidelines, and especially on water supply by 50%, food production by 50%, and primary contact for recreation use by 69%. Accomplishments, Madam Chair, for 2024 are the 40 WACMAs that have been operationalized and the classification of over 1,000 water bodies. Discharge permits were issued to over 3,000 entities, 31 new water bodies adopted, and 321 adopted esteros are now monitored. Water quality has improved in the GEM sites, Madam Chair. These are the highly environmentally critical but also high tourism value areas of Panglao, Siargao, and Puerto Galera. There have been 8,170 notices of violation issued, and fines and penalties have been collected of over 430 million. For 2025, Madam Chair, we aim to establish and designate 8 additional WACMAs, continue the strengthening of our operations on 40 of these. We would like to classify further 23 bodies of water and ensure that 44 priority rivers and 42 priority recreational waters conform to water quality guidelines. There will be a procurement, Madam Chair, and subject to the technology that will be evaluated for an additional 10 units of real-time water quality monitoring equipment for the GEMs. Next slide, please. On Manila Bay, Madam Chair, this is quite lengthy, but to restore water quality of tributaries in Manila Bay to SB level as mandated by the Supreme Court ruling, reduce the solid waste that actually ends up in Manila Bay, remove encroachments along easements permanently but within the law and with the collaboration of the local government units as the lead agencies. So on accomplishments, Madam Chair, we note that as of June 2024, fecal coliform levels have already dropped to 1,520, but of course, the level should be in the 100. and therefore we are far off from our goal. All 18 monitored beaches in Regions 3 and 4A have shown significant improvement. From 2024 to this date, the fecal coliform levels at Manila Bay Walk have also dropped to 1,100, but as I said, acceptable level is actually 100. 3 sewage treatment plants are in advanced construction phase, San Juan, Bitas, Las Piñas, and this is only part of a large investment on sewage treatment plants that was programmed for the Manila Bay rehabilitation. Details of which, Madam Chair, we can submit to your office. 208,000 metric tons of materials dredged along the stretch of the 26-kilometer waterways. Over 9,000 mangrove, 150 mangroves, and 333,000 bamboo propagules have been planted for habitat restoration. We have also identified 72 bird species and recorded 22,458 birds in our monitoring with the conservation partner. Also, the 208.35 kilometers of easement have been delineated for a 20-meter easement across the 3 regions in Manila Bay. For 2025, Madam Chair, maintenance of the 5 existing and operating STPs, construction of 3 new ones in Estero de la Reina, Estero de Magdalena, and Bacoor, installation of 3 biogas digesters to reduce pollution load from livestock and poultry. We will be delineating additional kilometers for easements and recovering with the collaboration of the LGUs, the areas that can be developed into linear parks, Madam Chair. On the Pasig, yes, ma'am. And owned by
Kasi
Maynilad.
sa amin, Las Piñas may owned by Maynilad.
Yes, Madam Chair, I will defer to Yusek Jonas Leones, who's on top of the
Hindi to built by DNR.
This will be built by DNR through collaboration with DPWH and MMDA, Madam Secretary.
So different from Maynilad.
Iba po yung Maynilad, ma'am. Iba, kanila po yung budget na yan. But these are budgets coming from...
Sewage treatment plants in Las Piñas River. Is that the one being built near Manila Bay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
That
madam.
one?
We have existing 2 treatment facility in Abad and Libertad Channel, and ongoing construction advance is Las Piñas, San Juan, and Navitas, Madam Chair.
Can we inspect that? You ask your people to bring me there.
Yes, ma'am. We will do that, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
This reclaiming of easement, is this being done by DNR? to
Yes,
reclaim
madam.
the
What we're doing here, Madam Chair, is that our field operation NCR, Region 3 and Region 4A are the one delineating the violations of easement, and we refer this to DPWH, LGU, and MMDA for information and further actions on how they can recover the
It's not
easements.
the one doing it.
We are not the one. What we're doing, Madam Chair, is just to delineate the violations for easements, Madam Chair.
Kasi I have never heard of any DNR doing the reclaiming of easement. So I thought that if you are doing this, or you're just showing them what to.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Madam Chair. We are submitting the results of our survey to the DPWH, MMDA, and local government unit.
Where will you build this sewage treatment plant in Bacoor?
Ma'am, we'll particularly we will inform you about the location.
Yeah,
I
I
don't have
just
the.
want to see because I live there, so I'm interested.
Madam Chair, if I may, these are all planned in part of the rehabilitation plan for Manila Bay, and we'll submit to you the exact locations
Oh yeah,
Yes,
for.
I'm interested in Bacoor and Las Piñas
Yes.
because I want to see it.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
We'll submit the locations, exact
And
location.
I know I reclaim 40 kilometers of easement in Las Piñas, Bacoor, and I did it by myself and my budget in the Senate. but I've never heard of DPWH or DNR doing it, or MMDA. So I'm just curious where they are doing this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as just to reconfirm what Yusek Leones has said, delineation po is where we do our work. And hopefully we try to engage the other government agencies to who actually have enforcement power to do
Yes,
the recovery of these areas.
that's why I'm reading this. I'm interested
Yes po, ma'am.
because I'm very active in this.
Yes po, ma'am. We'll give you po, ma'am, the maps for these areas as well. Thank you, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. On the Pasig River rehabilitation, Madam Chair, as we know, 27 kilometers, this river is 27 kilometers and connects Laguna Lake to Manila Bay. And it covers 3 major tributaries and 46 minor tributaries po. And along the way, there are multiple esteros and other bodies that are all linked to it. So for 2024, Madam Chair, in terms of accomplishments, we have 6 areas that have passed out of 10 for Class C in terms of water quality. Perimeter fences and trash traps, Madam Chair, were also installed in priority areas, including the Malacanang restricted area, Madam Chair. 395 meters of trash barriers and trash booms installed. 6 esteros were repaired and maintained as linear parks. 5 trash traps in priority areas were installed. And then we have been monitoring over 17,000 linear meters, Madam Chair, of easement. Madam Chair, just for the information of the Chair, in the last Typhoon Karina, solid waste collected in this area, NCR, and the surrounding areas amounted to over 833,000 kilos of solid waste were collected from these areas, both from, of course, the inland as well as what were coming in by the bay. So the solid waste issue, Madam Chair, is really the most paramount for us in terms of water quality, but also in terms of flood management.
Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair. So,
Actually, you have to do it every day
yes, Madam Chair.
to
So,
solve it. You know, we're doing it every day and there's still a problem. You know, they thought that you will allocate a budget to solve it one time. No, it's a continuing effort. It's an everyday effort to be able to solve the problem.
yes, Madam Chair. So in the budget, it also included are the budgets for Estero Rangers of about 1,200 and 400 individuals, including the river warriors. So these are the daily workers po that actually do the cleanup in the different esteros.
I guess you have to coordinate because DPWA gives 2 and the MMDA
Yes.
gives also. So it's a combination of your effort and the DPWH and then the MMDA for Metro Manila. But I guess you cannot do it alone.
Yes,
You have
Madam
to have a joint effort there because in our river, it's the 3. I asked the 3 to help us because we cannot just rely on DNR. We have to have the help of DPWH also and the MMDA.
Yes, Madam Chair, and hopefully the local governments can also take the leadership role here. So, Madam Chair,
Some
under-
local government, but not all.
Yes, Madam Chair.
But that's not their interest. They have other interests.
Madam Chair. So under your leadership and budget also, Madam Chair, as you may recall, we turned over the dredgers to the different local government units
Yeah.
this year po.
Yeah.
And hopefully to help them in maintaining these areas as well.
They have to be tawag doon, supervised because they thought that if you're employed by the government, it's 1530. They have no work, you just get the compensation, the salary. So if you don't supervise them, it's useless.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for 2025, we wish to maintain the linear parks that have already been identified and cared for. We are continuously monitoring the water quality in 52 waterways And we
I'm
hope-
just interested, which are the waterway going to Manila Bay? Because that's your responsibility, and di ba? Even if you clean Manila Bay, but if the water, the rivers going to Manila Bay will bring trash to Manila Bay, then it's useless. So can you give me a list of the waterways going to Manila Bay?
Yes, Madam Chair, we will supply you, including the esteros, because those esteros
Yeah.
are the ones that have the direct impact as well. Thank you, Madam Chair. And then for the delineation of additional easements, which is a continuous activity as well, Madam Chair. So on the next slide, for solid and hazardous waste, Madam Chair, as we have just been discussing, this is a big issue for us. Although nationally, the number of LGUs that have their sanitary landfills have increased, and barangays with the segregation facilities also have increased. We still are challenged in terms of the amount of solid waste that makes its way into our rivers and finally the ocean. So, an accomplishments, SLFs 317 servicing 709 cities and municipalities were established, over 12,000 MRFs servicing the 19,000 plus barangays nationwide. 224 LGUs were assisted in the deliberation of their 10-year solid waste management plans. So bringing to 85% already of LGUs with approved plans. And 1,592 LGUs were provided with technical assistance on solid waste management implementation. On bio-waste shredders, Madam Chair, over 1,200 were distributed.
You know, there are only 1,600 LGUs in the Philippines. If you gave to 1,212 na composters, you have almost given to all.
Yes.
And I have given them also more than that, coming from the Bureau of Soil and Water Management. Can you give me a list of what you have given so I can compare it with the Bureau of Soil and Water
Yes, Madam Chair,
Management?
we will send you that list, Madam Chair. We will submit. And then in terms of hazardous waste,
Kasi meron, nung last time, nung hindi ikaw ang Secretary of DNR, namigay sila because I forced them, the DNR, no composters work. Kasi yung supplier, nagloko. Oo. I gave the supplier from Cebu, I asked you to give 350 million for composters, and ang complaint nila, no composter work. So please supervise this because baka mamaya namigay kayo kadami-dami tas hindi naman nag-work. Oh, ana? Oh,
yes, Madam Chair, we will submit the list and the status of
yeah,
operation.
make sure that the supplier will make sure that it will work. O kasi yung sa DNR noon, ang feedback sa akin, nothing worked. Oo. Kaya please inspect this if it's working. Kasi kung ikaw namigay ng ganyang karami, and then kami rin sa Bureau of Soil namigay ng ganyang karami, dapat lahat sila meron ng composter. Kasi kami, every year, 2,000.
Yes.
2,000 composter. Kayo nakalagay dito 1,300, 1,200. Oh, di more than one na each municipality.
Yes, ma'am.
And I remember I gave to Camiguin 6 for the island of Camiguin. Tuwing makikita ko yung gobernador, dun siya tuwan-tuwa of all the things that were given to them. Dun siya tuwan-tuwa sa composter kasi libre na daw ang fertilizer nila. 6 composter lang yun. Ito niya ako makikita, doon siya nagpapasalamat, hindi siya nagpapasalamat on other things na ibinigay sa kanya, doon siya nagpapasalamat. Kasi I have been doing it since 2002. In Las Piñas, I have 89 composter. I never asked from government. I gave it to them out of my own resources. And tuwan-tuwa ako kasi ang dami-dami kong organic fertilizer. Oh, ipinapackage ko ng 25 kilos a sack. And then pinamimigay ko sa mga tao para hindi na sila bibili ng fertilizer. And masayang-masaya sila. And malinis pa bayan namin. And we reduce yung sinasabi mo dito na landfill. We only sent to our landfill in what you call the San Mateo Rizal 20% because we recycle already 3/4 of our waste. Yung composter 50% yan ng waste eh. Tapos yung plastic 15% yan eh. Tapos yung paper 15% kasi nabibili yan eh kasi yung nagre-recycle ng waste paper sa Pampanga, sabi niya sa akin, kilala ko kasi siya, even if we sell their company, all our waste paper, they still import waste paper. And then yun namang plastic, I turn them into school chairs in our city. So, yun, yung soft plastic yun. Yung hard plastic, yung PET bottles, nagtayo na ang Coca-Cola, di ba, sa Gentry, ng recycling of PET bottles. And they're afraid that they will not have enough PET bottles to justify their investment kasi ang laki na ininvest nila doon eh. Oh. So, pag ikaw ay nag-composter, unti mo 50% of your waste, you don't have to throw. Di tapos ang problema mo sa landfill, di ba? Hindi ka hirap na hirap magtayo ng landfill. Oh, and then the local government will save. We save 300 million a year because we are recycling. 300 million a year. Kasi a typical city in Metro Manila will spend 400 minimum. Yung malalaki, mas malaki pa. And we save 300 million a year. So this is really a very good project. And I hope that if we give out composter, it will be working. Kasi baka mamaya mag-i-invest tayo tapos pagdating sa kanila, it won't work. So I hope you will supervise this so they will work.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. So for 2025 po, we will continue to provide technical assistance and the monitoring of the LGUs that have been approved, whose SWM plans have been approved. We hope to close and rehabilitate certain dump sites whose time is due. And of course, establish more landfills that are sanitary, if we may, and increase the MRFs, Madam Chair, in order to also assure that the diverting for the use of composting material, Madam Chair, as you have suggested, will happen. We are also looking to procure 22 units of methane gas analyzers for our sanitary landfills, Madam Chair. This will also help us in monitoring for our greenhouse gas inventory of the country in terms of what methane we are actually producing from the SLFs. Again, continuous monitoring of registered hazardous waste generators that are over 15,000 and 198 registered transporters of hazardous waste as well. 173 registered hazardous waste treatments and storage facilities are also going to be monitored quite closely, Madam Chair, in terms of our solid waste management work and programs at the DNR. Madam Chair, yes.
I just want to remind you what we talk about, that you will teach us how to get this carbon credit.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Kasi ako pa noon ko pa gusto mag-aral how to get carbon credits because I think I have many projects that can qualify for carbon credit. Ang maganda dito, kung makakuha ka ng carbon credit at bayaran ka, magagamit mo uli para dun sa same projects to enhance your project.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm very interested in this and I hope someone from DNR will teach me
Yes, Madam
about
Chair.
this carbon credit.
Yes, Madam Chair. We'll arrange that right away.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, additionally on the solid waste management, the implementation, Madam Chair, of your legislation of the Extended Producer's Responsibility Law, we have issued several DAOs already for the implementing rules and regulations, the IRR, then compliance reporting and audit guidelines. We've established the EPR portal, so for the registry system of all the obliged enterprises. So, Madam Chair, as mentioned yesterday, we have now 947 entities. They have submitted into the EPR program, and 772 have actually given in their compliance audit report, Madam Chair. So you see, Madam Chair, on the table there, how much they have recorded as having been audited. This is the self-audit for the particular firm, and the how much has been diverted in terms of the rigids and flexibles, just the rigids, and then individually the flexibles as well, Madam Chair. So we hope to actually increase the number of entities. We're still working with the DTI to establish how many entities actually should be part of the obliged enterprises on the EPR. The challenge here, Madam Chair, is for the 100 billion capitalization qualification to actually be referenced against those that are producing their plastic waste and packaging. So in terms of targets, Madam Chair, we will continue with implementation. The target for the registration of obliged enterprises is 1,183 so far, working with the DTI on this. And of course, we will continue to survey and monitor those that need to be enrolled into the obliged.
Tingin mo, ilang percent na ang nag-engage sa EPR doon sa obliged companies?
Madam Chair, I will turn over to Yusek Leones.
Initially, the last coordination with the DTI, we're looking at 2,000 obliged enterprises that can be covered by the EPR. Out of the 2,000 industries, as mentioned by the Honorable Secretary, a total of 947 entities have already registered,
50% pa lang.
more or less.
Bakit ang tigas ng ulo nila? Ba't hindi nyo pa i-demanda?
Madam Chair, for verification pa, Madam Chair, because the matching cross-referencing with DTI is evolving pa ho. We take the 100 million capitalization cut off and then we cross-reference who's actually producing plastic and packaging plastic. So
Yeah,
100 million, then Opo.
or less.
Opo.
It's more than 50.
Yes po, ma'am. Yes po, ma'am.
Just curious.
Yes, Madam Chair, we will. Yes, Madam Chair. We will submit pa, Madam Chair. And what's very encouraging, Madam Chair, is we have most of the fast-moving consumer goods companies are already enrolled and also submitting. Yes, Madam Chair.
So our multinational are the ones who are doing this, yung mga sachet. So hindi naman tayo bago. We legislated it first in Asia, but in Europe they have been doing it. So I copied their model in Europe. So they know, kasi marami dyan, mga first world country ang owner. They know. It's just that they're not doing it in our country. But now they are doing it.
Yes, Madam Chair. And actually, Madam Chair, part of our grant from the EU on the green economy for the Philippines program, which is a 60 million euro grant, is actually devoted to the implementation, ensuring of the EPR implementation po, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. Madam Chair, as part of the work of the Mines and Geoscience Bureau, there is a geohazard mapping and groundwater vulnerability assessment also ongoing. And so what we are wanting to report for June 2024, there have been 118 cities and municipalities that have been assessed for karst subsidence. Madam Chair, these are particularly areas within our beach islands as well as coastal areas. And 82 cities and municipalities have been assessed for groundwater resource and vulnerability as well. We aim to grow that list, Madam Chair, as well as apply new tools, Madam Chair, in 2025, including artificial intelligence, in terms of risk mapping, that we aim to add 58 additional cities and municipalities and refine this as well, Madam Chair, in terms of landslide and flood risk. Assess additional cities, 22 more for karst subsidence, and assess 50 municipalities and cities for groundwater resource vulnerability and assessment. This, we hope, Madam Chair, will help the LGUs in informing their climate and disaster risk plans for each of the LGUs that are covered by this particular activity of the MGB. Madam Chair, for reference, the MGB submits to the GeoRisk PH, which is the platform of the DOST for all hazard mapping, the data on landslide and flood risk and exposure hazard information accordingly. So in terms of the risk-informed and science-based planning, this is done with our partners, Madam Chair, including the Asian Development Bank and USAID. We have accomplished continuing accomplishment of resilience roadmaps for Negros Occidental and Kamsur. 8 more provinces capacitated to use these climate diagnostic tools that we have available to develop projects and proposals for these projects. For the target for 2025, we hope to increase the risk and resilience mapping. And this is done, Madam Chair, in collaboration with many partners in 4 provinces that are exposed to climate impacts. Here for 2025, Cagayan, Pangasinan, Masbate, and Sorsogon. On this climate and disaster risk resilience of ecosystems, Madam Chair, this is the using of a tool called the Green Assessment. We are now, as of 2024, all regions have been capacitated, regions of the regional officers of the DNR, and are now in certain stages of the green assessment framework already. Some pilot activities have been conducted and 2 post-audit green recovery plans have been developed. This is a partnership, Madam Chair, also with USAID and other partners for Palawan and Siargao. For 2025, Madam Chair, this will include 3 other regions, regions 1, 5, and 10. Next slide, please. So, Madam Chair, in terms of the climate work that has been developed now in the DNR, the implementation of the National Adaptation Plan of 2023 to 2050 and the Nationally Determined Contributions Implementation Plan, respectively for adaptation and mitigation of climate change, have now already been kicked off. The ongoing activities as per these plans, Madam Chair, the formulation of long-term strategies on low-carbon development, the development of the just transition roadmap that will affect our social and economic communities, and the finalization of our greenhouse gas inventory for the submission to the UNFCCC. Madam Chair, the Philippines is the 56th country in the world to submit both National Adaptation Plan and the NDC Implementation Plan. Both have been generated with the help of our partners, initially for the NAP with the UK government and with the NDCIP with the Asian Development Bank. We are the 3rd in ASEAN to submit a national adaptation plan to the UNFCCC, Madam Chair. So our accomplishments have really been already reported to the President, and we are now in the process of cascading this so that they may be mainstreamed according to his instructions. So we hope to be able to complete the mainstreaming sometime in the next year in 2025, hopefully to be monitored in terms of progress. So translation of the NAP into sectoral level and portfolio level. So localization of the NAP recommendations will need to take place, especially if they relate to disaster management. The development of a comprehensive and integrated financing and investment pipeline for these is also ongoing, Madam Chair, in collaboration with other NGAs and our partners in the Asian Development Bank and World Bank. The implementation of waste sector and industrial processes and product use sector policies and measures also related to our greenhouse gas emissions, Madam Chair, and the updating of our nationally determined contributions. Next slide, please. So, Madam Chair, if you recall, in 2020, the UN Disaster Risk Reduction conference in the Asia Pacific. The second one was, of course, the climate change negotiations. During those negotiations, we were part of the initiation of the campaign from 2022 to 2023 of the Philippines now being the host of the fund to respond to loss and damage, or the Loss and Damage Fund Board. And so we have now already completed the legislative process on the granting of the immunities and privileges to the Loss and Damage Fund Board, Madam Chair, with your great support and the leadership of Senator Aimee, as well as leadership of Congressman Chato in the House and Congressman Arenas. So here we have enactment of the law on the hosting of the Loss and Damage Fund Board, and we are now just completing the negotiations on the signing finally of the host country agreement. Madam Chair, I'm pleased to report that we will be hosting the first meeting of the fund board in December of this year, 2024. And so we are now in preparations for that. We are also operationalizing and formalizing the Philippines hosting requirements so that we may be able to continue to represent and support the operations of the fund for the response to loss and damage in the country. On mapping resource information, Madam Chair, this is the work of NAMRIA as our national agency. As you can see, Madam Chair, by June 2024, coastal resources maps for 15 provinces were produced and updated. Three active geodetic stations were established, over 8,000 square kilometers of EEZ, and over 1,400 square kilometers for archipelagic waters have been surveyed. 6 unclassified public forest sites covering 231,624 hectares have been surveyed, and the third cycle land cover mapping for 13 provinces were conducted. For the targets in 2025, Madam Chair, 4,000 square kilometers of EEZ. We hope to be able to survey that, 1,000 square kilometers for archipelagic waters, 4 ports, and 15 UPF sites. And we wish to update, Madam Chair, 1,500 large-scale line maps, 50 medium and small-scale maps, 15 provincial land cover maps, 14 provincial coastal resource maps, and produce 360 large-scale maps for 4 provincial land use maps. So this is the budget, Madam Chair, for the National Mapping Agency. Related to our mapping capability, Madam Chair, and this is the work of the Geospatial Database Office of the DNR, we are now able to overlay the natural systems with the governance systems that are actually pertaining to each. So you'll see here, Madam Chair, the monitoring of foreshore lease agreements. We are now able to do this using satellite imagery and then ground-truthed, as well as the usage of drones. We are also now able to monitor compliance to EIAs. This is an image of Calabar Zone with buildings with ECCs, buildings with possible ECCs, buildings without ECCs, and some buildings that are unidentified and will require classification. We also have characterization of potential investment areas for both forest and water. And as we discussed, Madam Chair, as your own legislation, the potential salt production areas are being mapped now, Madam Chair. Yes, Madam Chair. We will submit the report. So strategic partnerships and convergence initiatives, Madam Chair, these are all falling within the budget and have been part of what we will call the non-traditional areas of work of the DNR. But we feel that this is required in terms of ensuring the implementation of environment and natural resource management. For Project Transform, Madam Chair, which is an LGU-based multi-stakeholder effort in order to ensure environment and natural resource management and climate and disaster resilience. For 2024, we are continuing with Bataan, Rizal, Ormoc, Palawan, Surigao del Norte, and Bohol and Sarangani. On 2025, we hope to be able to establish transform teams for Baguio City, Quezon City, provinces surrounding the Verde Island Passage, Madam Chair, Masbate City, and Lanao del Norte. We have also reached out to the following national government agencies in order for us to work more closely with them to, in effect, be force multipliers for the DNR given our limited number of personnel, budget, and resources. So we have ongoing dialogues with the DPWH, DOE, especially on offshore wind and floating solar projects, Madam Chair, with the DILG, particularly in Transform for disaster risk reduction, waste management, and the circular economy, with the DSWD for a new generation Panahon ng Pagkilos project aligned with the National Adaptation Plan, locally led climate change adaptation initiatives, and building adaptive capacity in communities. Madam Chair, there's one particular landmark strategic partnership and convergence activity with the Department of Energy. Given the environmental critical area, which is the Verde Passage, and the necessity to ensure conservation protection of the area, we have engaged with the DOE as well as the major conglomerates that will be now operating in the area relative to investment.
It's so funny, ha? Itong Verde Island Passage, ang kapartner nyo, San Miguel Corporation. Hindi ba yung kanyang, ang nag-spill doon?
Ilihan gas, diba?
Yeah, you better look at that kasi baka there's something wrong with the way they operate their transportation of oil. Kasi siya nag-spill dito sa Verde Island Passage. Siya din ang nag-spill doon sa Bataan eh. Same. The product is with San Miguel except hindi liable ang San Miguel kasi subcontractor yung baka ba yun? Palagi na lang eh. You look at that kasi yung oil spill is very detrimental to our lalo na tong Verde Island Passage is the best in the world daw.
Yes,
In
Madam
terms
Chair.
of yung underground river na natin doon, yung mga marine yung natural marine
Resources po,
oo
biodiversity.
there. Palagi yung kanyang oil lang nag-i-spill eh. Although hindi siya responsible kasi subcontracted, dapat yata yung pag-subcontract mo ng ganun, pagbutihin mo kasi bakit oil spill ng oil spill yan, di ba? Grabe to nangyari sa sa Verde Island Passage and you have special attention on this, di ba?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, this is a new agreement.
To be there.
Yes, Madam.
Kasi, siyempre, sikat naman kasi ang San Miguel, so hindi pinapublish. Pero based on our investigation, parehong kanya yung yung oil eh. Iba-iba lang yung subcontractor. Yung nag-oil spill sa Bataan recently and then nag-oil spill sa Verde Island Passage. Medyo, siguro, warning natin na hindi naman kukuha ng mga irresponsible na magta-transport. Yung sa Bataan, parang pa yun eh. May crime yun eh. Kasi, in fact, I'll talk to you about it. Dapat kayo yata ang mag-file ng case doon. Kasi ang na-damage is environment and ang na-damage is fisheries. Kayong dalawa ng BIFAR ang dapat mag-file kasi yung explanation sa hearing ng Philippine Coast Guard, parang pasabot sila. Nung mag-hearing kami, tapos yung explanation nila, parang kasabot sila, nakakaawa naman yung ating environment at ang ating fishery sector. Kaya gusto ko ang mag-file na ng case doon yung ating DNR at saka yung fisheries, BIFAR. Huwag na ipabahala sa kasali sila doon eh, yung Philippine Coast Guard, yung mga explanation nila nakakatawa. Alam mo yung sabi nila, tingin ko yung laman nung vapor, inililipat nila kasi hindi ba merong tawag doon sa crime na yon, yung nililipat yung oil sa small boat, ninanakaw yung oil na dala nung kasi hindi nagbabayad ng taxes. Tapos sabi ba naman sa akin, yung dalawang boat na kumukuha ng oil doon na naandun sila for 36 hours, nanggaling sa Nabotas nagbotas yung boat kasi illegal na yung boat eh. Ano na eh, may crime eh. Grounded na eh. Aba, sabi sa akin eh, naputol daw yung pag-connect sa port at nag-float papuntang Bataan. Kayo natawa na nga kayo, di ba nakakatawang explanation, naputol yung pagka-anchor niya dun sa nabotas at nag-float mag-isa papuntang Bataan. Ha? Tama ba yun? Kaya ako, nung madinig ko yun, tinigil ko na ang hearing at sabi ko, kinausap ko na lang yung BIFAR at saka DNR na you better file the case kasi hindi natin maaasahan ng Coast Guard. Para i-explain sa akin ng gano'n, common sense naman, may naputol ba na nakarating sa Bataan? Sus Maria Jose. Doon sa Bataan, nagtatransfer ng oil eh. Nandun sila, then biglang may warning na ng bagyo. Siguro, ano din yun eh. Inano na rin ng Diyos na mangyari yun, na magtumaob sila kasi may kalokohan sila. Pareho silang illegal eh. Yung dalawang tatlo silang vapor na naandun. And this major boat na may dala nung umalis 36 hours before. Hindi pa siya naalis sa Bataan for 36 hours. Papunta siyang Iloilo. Ano ginagawa niya doon? Kaya siya bumaliktad kasi may bagyo na ayaw siya umalis doon. Ano ginagawa niya doon? Tapos kasama niyo yung dalawang illegal boat doon na bumaliktad na rin. Siguro, yun? Parang will ng God yun. Bumaliktad sila doon dahil sa mga kalokohan nila. And kayo magdemanda doon. Hindi na natin maaasahan ng Coast Guard. Kawawa naman ng bansa natin. Oil spill. Di bali yung Bataan, hindi masyado. Pero Verde Island Passage, grabe to. Diba? Permanent damage to sa environment. Famous tong Verde Island Passage na to. I hope, Secretary, you will do something about it.
Yes, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, on Bataan, we are now looking through the National Pollution Adjudication Board, what might be possible in terms of the actions taken dun sa Bataan.
Kasi sabi nila sa akin, it will take ilang months bago sila mag-file ng case. Ay ko, tagal-tagal naman noon. Ano? Wala na kayong aasahang report from Coast Guard. Do your own report kasi hindi naman gagawa ng report na it's so funny na report eh. Ako nakinig, dinismiss ko na yung hearing kasi naglolokohan na kami eh. Kaya in-end ko na yung hearing kasi yung mga explanation niya, it's so funny. Paano man ang pumload ang vapor papuntang Nabotas hanggang Bataan na natanggal lang daw ang tali? Sus Maria. Sino maniniwala doon? Malaking kalokohan yun. Puro nag-float sila ng out of nowhere. Walang permit to travel.
Madam Chair, if I may refer to ATEC Enaran on the potential for the case.
Yes, thank you. Madam Chair, per report of the DNR Region 3, they're now preparing the complete staff work to be submitted to the central office for the determination of the appropriate case. So we're looking at the provisions of the Philippine Clean Water Act, particularly Section 27 of the Prohibited Acts. But generally, Madam Chair, under the provision of PD 979, it's the jurisdiction of the Philippine Coast Guard. But we're looking at this Philippine Clean Water as a possible
Don't rely on Philippine
Yes,
Coast Guard.
yes, Madam Chair.
Part of it. My God, if you just listen to what they're saying, they're really part of it. So I'm relying on DNR and Bureau of Fisheries because the damage is to the environment and to the fisheries industry, to our small fisher folks. So dapat kayo na, wag na kayo umasa sa Coast Guard. Mali yung report ng Coast Guard, nakakatawa. Wala silang balak. Nag-hearing na kami dito twice eh. Kung mga pinagsasabi nila, illogical. So,
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
they're part of it. They're part of it. So we must do something for the environment and for our fisheries on our own. Huwag tayong mag-rely sa kanila. Can you give me a report of the updates there? Kasi kinausap ko na sila na wala na tayong maaasahan sa Coast Guard.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Wala na
We'll submit.
tayong maaasahan doon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Perhaps for just to emphasize on the Verde Island passage, Madam Chair, there are several partners that are involved right now in the infrastructure projects that will be related to our energy transition work with the DOE in terms of developing LNG infrastructure. So there would be Aboitiz Equity and Ventures, Metro Pacific, San Miguel, as well as, Madam Chair, we have also reached an agreement with First Gen, ABS-CBN Foundation, who've done extensive work on the research on the marine biodiversity of this particular area, the center of the world's marine shorefish biodiversity, Madam Chair. So this work, we hope to engage provinces of Batangas, Marinduque, Romblon, Oriental and Occidental Mindoro, Madam Chair, and if we are able to engage all the way out, hopefully to Palawan as well. The salient and most important here, Madam Chair, is we will be establishing a marine scientific research station to monitor this area and then work with all the different universities that are already working there, as well as non-government organizations. These corporations, Madam Chair, have had also their foundations working on the environmental issues in this area. I should say First Gen has already been working with De La Salle for many years in this area. So we will be building on the work that they have done in order to work on the protection.
Meron bang na-file na case against the oil spill in Verde Island Passage?
In Mindoro.
Sino nag-file ng case?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, it was spearheaded by the Department of Justice. So they filed cases against the owners of the vessel.
What happened?
I'm not aware of the developments of the case, but we will
The way
provide the updates.
duty to protect the environment, you should be concerned.
Yeah.
Kasi grabe itong Verde Island Passage kasi famous to all over the world.
Madam Chair, we continuously monitor this area, no, in terms of the environmental compliance, no. However, I think what ASEC Canaran is
Kasi if we will
Pointing
not be able to file cases against oil spill, they will not stop doing this.
Madam Chair, I understand that there were cases filed so that the claims could actually be paid out to the particularly affected communities. We can get the update, Madam Chair.
To give
Already
an
with
update, because if we're not strict with this, then it will continue. And nagugulat lang ako, wala talagang concern. Kasi kawawan.
Yes, Madam Chair.
And you know, it's so funny. Pinakamaganda sa whole world daw yung Verde Island Passage. But unfortunately, nobody filed to declare it as a national protected area, legislated protected area.
Actually, Madam Chair, we have been trying to engage the different LGUs to work with us.
Wala,
But
walang nag-file. Yan ang the most famous, pero walang nag-file. Sino ako nag-file? I cannot do it without any Congress coming from the House of Representatives. I cannot do it kasi there should be a local bill coming from the House of Representatives and then I will approve it in the Senate. But nobody filed in the House of Representatives. So I think they don't appreciate the value of the Verde Island Passage. There's something wrong. Kasi yung bill on legislated protected area should come from Congress. And I just, after they submit it to me, I pass it in the Senate. And wala. Nag-file ako sa Senate, but that a bill from the Senate will not be enough. And besides, the procedure is it's a local bill. And then they have to submit it to the Senate so I can approve it in the Senate.
Yes,
But nobody filed. How come?
Madam Chair, we have been,
Eh,
maybe,
sinasabi mo dito, you will establish this Marine Science Biological Research Station with facilities to make the provinces of Batangas, Marinduque, Romblon, Oriental, and Occidental Mindoro appreciate their gift from the Lord. Pero walang nagfa-file sa kanila sa dami nila.
Madam Chair, if I may call Assistant Director.
We have already conducted the protected area suitability assessment of this area, and it really passed 95% rating.
Oh, sino
So-
nag-file?
So ma'am, we need to reconnect again with the local government.
government.
Nobody filed.
And
And I'm
Congress-
leaving this committee.
But Madam Chair, we'll make it our goal, Madam Chair, before you leave the committee. It's engagement with the local governments that really has been the challenge.
Dapat kasi manggaling from any congressman in the place. Kasi like ako, magko-congresswoman ako later sa Las Piñas. I cannot do it for them. Di ba? They have to do it themselves. Kasi sila yon, makikialam ba ako doon? Di ba? Oh, walang nagfa-file. Walang nagfa-file. I guess you have to work on it. Walang
Yes, ma'am, we
nagfa-file.
will work on connecting with the local congressmen po in these areas. Thank you.
I'm so surprised kasi yung Verde Island Passage, famous yan eh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will endeavor to accelerate the work, hopefully, Madam Chair, before you step down. We can do something. But the challenge is really at the local level, and we are trying to pull different stakeholders, including
Ikaw nga, nagtatayo ka doon ng special station because you know its importance. Eh, how come it cannot be legislated as a protected area?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Siguro dapat wag na padadaanin yung mga oil doon, paiwasin na sa Verde Island Passage. Siguro naman makakahanap kayo ng other route other than that. Kasi kung palagi mag-oil spill doon, kawawa naman yung Verde Island Passage, di ba? Wala naman silang pakialam kung mag-oil spill sila eh. Kasi itong mga nagta-transport ng oil, parang maliliit na kumpanya na na pag nahuli, pag nagumawa ng kalokohan, sasara lang yung kumpanya para wala nang responsibility. Hindi nga nila isinama sa rule yung may-ari nung product na tinatransport. Diba?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be guided accordingly. Madam Chair, so on the last page for us in terms of the ongoing activities of the DNR for 2024, Madam Chair, just to recall, the other opportunity that we had to represent the country in 2022 was the Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction of the United Nations. And so, Madam Chair, as you may recall, we will now be hosting this APM-CDR 2024 conference. It will begin next week, and we have over 4,500 registered participants, Madam Chair, and we are grateful for your participation in the plenary, Madam Chair. So this is an activity that is interagency. 19 different government offices are involved. The DNR was instructed by the president to lead the organization of this, and so we have been working with our partner, the Defense Department and the Office of Civil Defense, we are co-hosting this particular ministerial conference, Madam Chair, next week. The head of the UNDRR has arrived from Geneva last night. And so we expect to commence official meetings very shortly. So, Madam Chair, in the final page, Madam Chair, we will address the logistical challenge of the invitations, Madam Chair. I know that there are invitations for you, Madam Chair, because both to the ministerial dinner at Malacanang Palace and to the plenary,
I'm
Madam
not
Chair.
concerned about the invitation. I'm concerned about you going to the Las Piñas Parañaque
Yes,
wetland.
Madam Chair, so
Because we're building a roads there, so I want it to be nice when you go there.
thank you,
So
Madam
that's
Chair.
my concern.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, this ends the first portion because there are two other attached agencies whose budgets will follow, Madam Chair. So our total request, well, approved by the DBM was 26,027,113,000, Madam Chair. As you know, we are equivalent to 0.48 of 1% of the entire budget, Madam Chair. And we are trying to make highest and best use of the resources that are being given to us. And we hope, Madam Chair, for some reconsideration from the House and the Senate for some additional amounts, Madam Chair, which we will be writing to you about. So, Madam Chair, so just to go over the amount, our MOE is 47.5%, balance of which would be capital expense and personnel services of about 51+%, Madam Chair. Central office, Madam Chair, just to be specific, that's broken down into 4 staff bureaus and 16 regional offices as well, Madam Chair. The 16 regional are also here shown in this line chart. And so, Madam Chair, we'd be very grateful for your consideration, and hopefully we might be able to also appeal to both the House and Congress on some additional amounts if possible, Madam Chair. The last items, Madam Chair, would be the budgets of the two agencies. The first one being the Metropolitan Water Works and Sewage System. As you know, pursuant to EO 22 series of 2023, we have the Water Resources Management Office under the DNR, which has been actively coordinating and working with both these agencies. And so, Madam Chair, for MWSS, which is vital to the supply of NCR and surrounding regions for water, the budget is 169.58 million pesos. And then, Madam Chair, for the Local Waters and Utilities Administration, Madam Chair, we've taken note of your request, and I hope that they're ready with the information on the historical budget.
Yeah, you show me also the budget of MWS,
Yes, Madam
historical, so I will know. This one naman talaga, 2024, 864 million. It
Yes,
should
Madam
go
Chair.
up, this should not go down.
Yes, Madam
So I'm just asking Lua to submit yung mga projects, and then we'll see what can be prioritized.
Yes, Madam Chair,
Oo,
we will do that.
para maibalik natin yung at least the same level as last year, di ba?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Oh, ganun.
So we request LUA and MWSS.
Yes.
Five-year
Submit me the history.
history
Yeah.
of the budget for each of the agencies to be submitted within the day.
And at the same time, I got also the budget of the legislated protected area. And you have been cut also.
Yes, Madam Chair. And so because of that, as I said, we have begun.
One from 2.3 in 2024, you are now 1.3.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Oh, as I was saying, we passed the legislated protected area in 2018, di ba? Before 2018, it's 13 legislated protected area. Now it's 114, and we're still passing another 10.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yeah. So I thought that it should be proportionate.
Yes, Madam Chair.
If the budget in 2018 was 714, the increase in budget should be proportionate. So we will review this. We don't have to end the hearing today. We have to review this so that we will make the necessary changes. I wish to acknowledge the presence of Senator Jinggoy Estrada, our Senate pro tempore, Speaker pro tempore. You can now make your, I've been here a long time, so it's your turn to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I just would like to manifest my full support for the proposed budget of the DNR and its attached agencies and corporations. And we look forward to listening to the discussions and presentation of the plans and programs of the department in relation to environmental protection and sustainability and responsible management of our country's assets. Madam Chair, if I may just ask some clarificatory questions. Madam Secretary, I have noticed that there is a decrease in your budget in the office of the Secretary. May I know what is the reason for the decrease of the budget, considering that this gets a sizable chunk of the overall outlay of the department?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Honorable Senator. I'll turn over to Yusek Ana Lisa Rebeltate for the itemized breakdown of the changes in the budget.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, Madam Chair. For the decrease in the budget for the central office, there is a decrease of about 120 million or 63%, or 0.63% rather. The decrease represents the reduced budget for capital outlay, mainly because of the one-time procurement activities on procurement of drones and other remotely operated vehicle and automated weather stations and establishment of marine stations, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair.
What have you purchased in the capital outlay in itong taon na ito?
Madam Chair, and Mr. Senator, Honorable Senator, we'll turn over to BMB in terms of the movement on the procurement of the UAVs.
Yes, sir. There is now ongoing procurement of drones.
Drones?
Drones to be used in monitoring our protected areas, sir.
What kind of drones?
We have three main types of drone. The VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing, to take care of big areas like Sierra Madre Natural Park. And we have small, medium rotor, the one that can navigate and hover over areas of forests. And
Who
small
operates the
rotor.
drones?
We need to hire people to
Experts?
operate, people that can be trained to handle the drones, sir.
Wala pa kayo na-hire? Haven't hired
so-
anyone to operate the drones?
Yes, it's part of the package that will be done for the year po. Right now, procurement has just commenced, sir, for this.
All right, there are unfilled positions. Unfilled positions now are projected to reach 3,590 in 2025. And comparatively for this year, this is the same figure for unfilled positions out of the 21,892 authorized position. And over the years, mukhang tumataas ang unfilled positions sa DNR and this trend continues. May I know what is the reason for this?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair. I will turn over to Undersecretary Augusto de la Peña to update the figures, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, as per figures for the central office and regional offices and bureaus, the subtotal for the totals for as of June 30, 2024, our plantilla positions is 19,613, sir, with 2,522 unfilled positions. However, as of September 19, 2024, out of the 19,693 plantilla positions, we have reduced actually to 2,255 unfilled positions.
So how many unfilled positions as we speak?
2,255.
2,000 na lang?
Yes, sir. 2,255.
Unfilled positions?
Yes, sir.
So you have already filled the
Reduced.
other positions?
Yes, sir. The filling and the unfilling of positions is actually an ongoing process. So as we fill the positions that were previously unfilled, some are being unfilled due to retirements and promotions and other causes for unfilling, sir.
No, may I know the reason bakit hanggang ngayon marami pa rin yung unfilled positions last year?
Yes, sir.
Why is that so?
As I mentioned, sir, it's a continuing process. So as we fill up the positions from our existing contracts of service, new hires, there are also positions that because of retirement and other causes, these are.
Okay, do you vet these people who are entering the government service?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We follow CSC rules regarding our hiring.
All right. On another note, Madam Secretary, this representation wishes to direct the attention of the committee to the Manikani Nickel Project, currently being undertaken by Hinatuan Mining Corporation on Manikani Island, Gian, Eastern Samar. Are you familiar with this?
Madam Chair and Mr. Senator, we actually sent a team there, and of course there is our former regional executive director is here that can actually report on this project.
All right. The Hinatuan Mining Corporation secured a mineral production sharing agreement on October 28, 1992 and extended until March 2, 2037. 2037, haba. Covering an area of 1,165 hectares. The original and existing ECC, which was issued on February 18, 1992, covers 419.75 hectares on Manikani Island for a production capacity of 250,000 wet metric tons of nickel ore. But under RA number 11038, or the Expanded National Integrated Protected Area System Act of 2018, the Gian Marine Resource Protected Landscape and Seascape, which covers 66,000 hectares, is declared as a protected area. The legislated protected area, which is also known as the Gian Marine Reserve, groups the islands of Calikoan, Suluan, Tubabao, Victory, Homonhon, Manikani, and other smaller islands and their surrounding reefs. And under the INIPAS law, specifically in Section 20, undertaking mineral exploration or extraction within the protected area and engaging in commercial or large-scale quarrying within the protected area are prohibited. And several groups and residents of the island and local interest organizations such as the Protect Manikani Island Society Incorporated, the Diocese of Borongan, and the Philippine Miserior Partnership Incorporated have protested and are not in favor of mining activities on the island. My question is, why is the mining operation of Hinatawan Mining Corporation still ongoing in that island when an act of Congress has already declared that the Gian Marine Reserve that includes Manikani Island is a protected area and that mineral exploration and extraction within protected area are strictly prohibited and punishable?
Thank you very much for that question, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator. I'll turn over first to the former Regional Executive Director, Romelin Claudio, for the immediate answer, and then I will call on the Assistant Director for BNB, Biodiversity Management Bureau, and our Assistant Secretary for Mines and Geoscience Bureau to respond to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Good noon, Your Honor. Yes, indeed, there is this GMRFPS, the Giwan Marine Reserve Protected Landscape and Seascape. But the Hinatuan Mining, Your Honor, only part of it is within the protected area, and it came in first. And may I say this, Your Honor, that the DNR, Environmental Management Bureau, Mines and Geosciences Bureau, including the DNR, with its field offices, the PENRO and the CENRO, are monitoring the operations of this. In fact, they just had the operation started last March, Your Honor. They were under care and maintenance for many years. And they also participate, Your Honor, in the Protected Area Management Board meeting, in which the DNR Regional Executive Director chairs this this PAMBI meeting. They have a very good plan, Your Honor, if I may say it, in the protection of the resources in the area. And in fact, they go well with the communities in Manicani Island. I've been chairing the PAMBI meetings, Your Honor, and the communities in that locality, except for the one that you mentioned, Your Honor, is opposing it, but we are addressing such concern. And it is not actually true because we have the monitoring arm in that area that they do adversely affect the area. In fact, they do the care and maintenance, Your Honor.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that it was only a part of the protected area.
Yes, Your Honor, and they came in first before it was legislated as the given.
But still, they're still operating or mining in the protected area.
Actually, the marine, the coastal area is the one which is the protected area,
Are
not
you
the
still-
terrestrial, not the
Are you still
terrestrial
going to give the
component.
cause signal for them to continue to operate?
Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, if I can just turn over to Undersecretary June Adobo for legal on the explanation of the prior rights for these types of situations, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and with the permission of the Secretary. What I understand of the case is that the department simply restore the lost time of the company, the time that they were not able to operate and were asked to make compliance. As soon as they comply with the requirements, the lost time was simply restored to them, and they were allowed 6 or around that time, more years, to first rehabilitate. And maybe MGB could provide the details of that. But it was not, Your Honor, Your Honors, Madam Chair, an extension of the life of the mine. And an extension cannot also be granted or renewal because of the law that proclaiming that the area is already a protected area.
Thank you, Undersecretary Adobo. Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, with your indulgence, I will call on Assistant Secretary Enaran to elaborate.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Estrada. Yes, you're correct in saying that once declared as protected area, it's already close to mining. But under the provisions of the INIPAS, under Section 22, regarding existing rights, it provides here that notwithstanding this act, all existing rights, contracts, or agreements entered into by government for the utilization of natural resources within protected area shall continue to be recognized and governed by Philippine laws.
So are there any other violations with regard to this Hinatuan Mining Corporation?
Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, I'll turn over again to our former Regional Executive Director because she has been working with the Protected Area Management Board and the stakeholders in the community as well as this particular entity.
Thank you, ma'am, Your Honor. At the moment, Your Honor, there is what we call under the Environmental Impact Statement System and even the Mining Act, a multi-partite monitoring team composed of the communities, the stakeholders, the government agencies concerned, and of course, the Protected Area Management Board. And we do monitor, Your Honor, the compliance of the company to the permits as well as the environmental compliance certificate. And to date, Your Honor, there's no violation found by the multi-partite monitoring team. When we talked about the MMT, Your Honor, it's a continuing monitoring that the DNR is doing, Your Honor?
Until when will we allow them to continue their operations? Clearly under Section 20 of the NIPA's law, prohibited ang mineral exploration, extraction within the protected area. Anyway, can you just provide this committee a report, a comprehensive report with regard to this Hinatuan Mining Corporation?
Yes,
So we can study it further.
yes, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, we will submit to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I will just reserve my questions later, Madam Chair.
We will recognize, thank you, Senator Chingoy. We will recognize now Senator Cayetano.
Magandang tanghali po, Madam Chair, Senate President Pro Temp, Madam Secretary, and the DNR family. And of course, I'd like to start by gratefulness, gratitude sa atin na chairperson at ating secretary for really looking out for the environment. And tatlo po topic ko today, LLDA, Bureau of Lands, and then in that it's more of red tape and bureaucracy and regulation. Pero dun po, I'd like to take up so that matignan na nung tao niyo, yung sa reclamation, sa PAREX, and sa C6. I want to ask some questions about the role of DNR, no, in terms of regulatory and making sure it's done well. Madam Secretary, you are a member of the board ng LLDA. If I'm not mistaken, are you chair or? And then may I add, Madam Secretary, who attends for you? I know you are member of not naman thousands, but tens and maybe hundreds of committees, subcommittees, cabinet clusters, boards. So who attends for you, ma'am, sa LLDA?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator. Yusek Jonas Leones attends for us at the LLDA po.
May I ask you, Sec Jones, are you familiar with the ABC project of the LLDA, DA, and City of Taguig? Just be honest, sir. I mean, you're not.
I'm so sorry.
You're not
Mr. Chair,
familiar.
not familiar,
Is GM Santiago here?
James Santiago is not around, but technical expert.
No,
is
I
here.
asked him to be around. I wrote you to be around. I told you in the last budget hearing for him to be around. I was chairman of the GOCC committee. He did not attend. May meeting daw siya sa isang mayor. Why is he not here today? I wrote a letter to DNR to make sure that he is here.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator. We did expect him to be here as well because in accordance with the requirement, he has sent a representative instead, si Engineer Hernandez.
Ma'am, mas mataas ata ang tungkulin sa inyo ni LLDA President. Kasi ma'am, napapanood ko kayo sa YouTube.tv, lahat ng hearing dito sa Senate, whether it's stressful for you or it's wonderful for you, nag-attend ka. Si LLDA Chairman ata, meron atang immunity eh. Hindi siya subject ng Kongreso. He can refuse to be here. He refused to be in my hearing. He came in the budget hearing. He came to my office 8 a.m. saying, I'm sorry, sir, ganito, ganito. I said, okay, just do your job. Do not snub the Senate, etc. Madam Chair, maybe I'll consult with you what we'll do with the budget of LLDA. But I'll continue for the chairs, for the secretary's information and the information of Mr. Leones, Yusek Leones. Can you show the 45-page DA presentation? So, Madam Secretary, I don't want to bore you with all of the details. My first privilege speech in 1998 as a young congressman was LLDA, Laguna Lake Development Authority. I see the Laguna Lake, I see the authority, but I do not see the development. That's my first speech. So I am how do I put it, the right words? Just like Senator Cynthia Villar is in love with agriculture and fixing yung mga tabing dagat, tabing baybayin, yung anti-pollution. You know, ever since I heard Architect Palafox say na yung buong Singapore ay kasya sa Laguna Lake, it just blew my mind that the provinces of Rizal, Laguna, Taguig, Muntinlupa, and the other cities can really benefit from development of the lake. No? But ma'am, while I'm showing this, can someone call GM Santiago and get to know why he is exempted? He's the only one in the whole national government. The executive secretary comes here. So dalawa lang pala sila, the president at siya. Kasi yung vice president, sabi kay secretary, he might not like what I'm gonna say, but he has to be here. So, Madam Secretary, I don't want to take the chairperson's time and Senator Jinggoy's time. I'll go through this very fast. I'll wait for. So, can you go to the next page? So, ma'am, the project is tinawag ni Secretary Darto na ABC kasi agro-fishery business corridor. So sabi niya, because nga yung since 70s may FTI, food terminal, which was the silo, the European silo system, di ba po, na kung mababa yung bili ng mga middlemen sa farmers, they put up silos like NFA and then namimili. But in the 70s, President Ferdinand Marcos Sr., di ba, he put up FTI. Long ago, meron dyan cold storage, was it all the facilities, but then it became an industrial site. And then now of the 120 hectares binili ng Ayala Arca South, but there are still some agricultural facilities, etc. No? So naisip ni Secretary Dar, why don't we, more than just fish pens, fix something in the Laguna Lake? And then dahil may na C6 na, we invited him kasi when 4 or 5 secretaries were there building the lake. So building the small road, no, beside the lake, no. So fast forward lang, no. So the first few pages is just a briefer on what the lake is. Meron man monitor sa harap ni secretary. Ayan, okay. And then one page back. One page back. Dun sa mga fish. Can you go? Yan. So actually maraming hindi familiar, but nung nagkaroon ng malaking baha, we noticed konting ecological, how do you put it, may ma-introduce lang sa lake, ma'am. So there was a big flood before millennium, about that time, between 2000, basta there were 2 big floods, and one of them, napasukan ng janitor fish, dumami na ng husto, tapos yung parang maliit na swordfish, di ba? So in fact, we have so many experts on salt water, but we don't really have that much experts on fresh water, no? So, fast forward. Bilisan nyo na lang yung slides, okay? So, ito po, panay profile, no? Go. Okay, so objective ng project, fast forward. Sige pa. Sige. I'll tell you na lang when to stop. So ma'am, nandiyan na naman lahat ng objectives, no? What good it is for the lake, how good it is for the, for example, no, kasi panay bangus, mababa presyo ng big head doon, but panahon ni President Duterte kasi binawasan ng 30% kasi apektado na yung quality ng water at lagay lang ng lagay ng fish pen. So this project is basically not only to produce for the government, for farmers, co-ops, but also yung kung ano yung mga scientific ngayon na tamang paggamit. So, can you stop there? Yeah. So, this is the first part, yung freshwater aquaculture component. Tita Cynthia, Madam Chair, yung floating fish pens has been there for a couple of years already. Nakailan-ani na kami dyan. And it's quite good kasi nga it doesn't disturb yung environment sa ilalim and everything. And then, yung mga may parang kubo-kubo sa gitna ng lake, it becomes parang tourist, ano pa niyan eh, kasi nga magaganda yung bangka. So that's why sabi nga ni Sec Dar, if you look for example nung beautiful boats dun sa Zamboanga, so he was telling Mayor Lani that why don't you put, you know, mga bangka, etc., whether it's fishing sa mga bata or whether iikot lang. So go to the next slide. And then, so ganyan po yung magiging itsura. So makikita nyo, it doesn't damage yung sa ilalim, and yung net doesn't extend all the way down. So the floor of the Laguna Lake is free to flourish. I mean, I know ma'am, you know more than that sa environment side sa akin. So, but just for the public's consumption. No? Next slide. Okay, next slide. So, after that ma'am, magkakaroon naman ng second, yung fish cages na mas malalaki. I'm not really sure if they started that or not. Next slide. Of course, yung mga bangka, next, Vinta, no, to be. Sige, fast forward yun na. Sorry, one page back. So yung iba namin fishermen sa Taguig, so Taguig is very unique ma'am, kasi although BGC and Arca South is there, and although we are a new central business district, we have about 1,000 farmers. So may melunan, noon may bigas pa. Bumalik yung we have an area, hindi siya commercial, but binuhay namin yung sapato or itik and sa duck racing. And we have 1,000 farmers, but we also have hundreds, or I'm not sure now if 1,300 fishermen. But of course, yung kumikita ma'am, yung malalaki na meron talagang cargo transport na nakakapunta na may fish pen, di ba? Kasi nga, so the point is to show the people that government can help co-ops or put up a more sustainable way of just partly using the lake for fishing. But kasi ngayon, most of it is just fish pen. So I mean, if I change the name to Laguna Lake Fish Pen Management, it will be more accurate than Laguna Lake Development Authority. To be fair to all the employees there, mahal nila yung lake, marami dyan, so many projects. For one reason or the other, hindi na bibigyan ng focus eh. Actually, after Clark and Boracay during the Duterte administration, kasunod na to na pinupush ko kay President Duterte, nakapaglagay nga ako nung speaker ako ng 250 million for just 2 ports just to try it instead of yung Pasig River. Unfortunately, kasama sa na-capture yan nung COVID, nung pandemic. No? So eto, parang idea naman ni Secretary Dar. Can you forward? Okay. Then ito, mga simplified technology. Again, si Chairman Cynthia Villar mas alam yung science niyan. She's gone all over, not only the Philippines, Asia, but the world to look at the best technologies in agriculture. Forward, please. Okay. Magkakaroon yan, ma'am, ng wharf and storage. Tapos we're talking nga to FTI whether doon ilagay yung cold storage. But the most modern cold storage in Southeast Asia is near there, is in my barangay, Bagumbayan. In fact, they help so much during the pandemic dahil sa storage nung vaccines, no? So meaning some would say ideal yung lugar, some say will not, no? But fast forward. Okay, so anyway, I'll stop there. This is the point I want to make. After meeting the GM last year and telling him, sir, I'm not telling you what to do. Ang pakiusap ko lang, wag nyo naman upuan yung mga projects. Kung may problema, follow the law. Kung walang problema, sundin nyo. Alam nyo pong ginawa niya dito. Nakipag-meeting sa DA, tapos according to him, he informed the board. That's why I'm asking you, Sec, if you're informed of this. So eto, 45-page to, and this started in, Attorney Matt, is it 2021, 2022? So this started, ma'am, in 2021. So ongoing to. Alam niyo po ang ginawa ni GM. Sinasabi niya ngayon sa DA, hold mo na yung project until may feasibility study kayo. Ngayon lang ako nakakita ng may MOA na ang LLDA, ang Taguig, ang DA at saka ang LLDA, ongoing na yung project, kumpleto yung mga dokumento. So hindi ba insulto sa DA at saka sa Taguig na ang sinasabi ba ng LLDA pumapasok kami sa mga project na ganyan na walang feasibility? Can you go to the timelines? I don't mind yung third requisite niya, ma'am. Yung third requisite niya is kung hindi matapos in reasonable time, LLDA will take over. I don't mind that. Go to the slide na may timelines. Kasi ma'am, may timelines to eh. And sa national government, we change every 6 years. Sa local government, every 3 years. So anyone who's elected every 3 years wants the project to finish kaagad and to, di ba, and not to be a white elephant, no? So I don't mind that third requirement. Yung second requirement niya nakakatawa. Certification na may pondo. And nasa GAA yung pondo eh. And if he was here in the budget 2024, nilagyan ni Senator Pia and myself ng 55 and an additional 50 million for the construction of the regional fisheries hub and 50 million for the construction of post-harvest technology. So ngayon lang ako nakakita ng opisyal ng gobyerno na nasa GAA yung pondo pero hinihingi niya ng certification na may pondo. Kung sasabihin niya sa akin na, sir, pwede bang humingi kami na nirelease ng DBM or saan ba yan, okay lang eh. Kasi part ng process eh. Pero hihingan niyo kami na meron pondo. So he doesn't believe that the GAA, pag may nakalagay na pondo doon, ibig sabihin meron. So if he was here, I was going to ask him, dahil may mga napaso na pondo dito from the DA, is LLDA going to reimburse us for that because of the red tape? Nawala yung maraming pondo dito because of that eh. O yung bidding, procurement law. Diba? If someone wins or minsan pag walang nagbid, etc., hindi naman unli yun eh. So kung procure nila ng 22-23, patapos na ng 2024 eh. Diba? So I really don't understand. Then ma'am, he wrote us or the city of Taguig. May project na kasi daw dun yung Manila Water. Kaya kami na lang lumipat. Okay. Unang-una, nauna tong project na to. So this morning, I called the city administrator of Taguig. I called the deputy administrator. Sabi ko, ma'am, may project ba din Manila Water? Sir, ang project niya is all over Taguig. Eh ano yung sinasabi ng LDA? Ma'am, pinayagan nila maging staging area. So yung malalaking tubo nila, nandiyan sa lupa na yan. So ano ba mas importante? Yung project na katulad nito that will develop the lake? Or yung Manila Water may paglalagyan ng tubo nilang malalaki? Di ba? So, ma'am, can you please look into this? But I'm not comfortable approving the budget of LLDA na wala siya. But of course, I do not want to hassle our chairperson and the secretary by asking you to come back. But iba yung attitude niya, ma'am. Hindi ako makapaniwala na he can snub my committee when I was chairman. And then the budget hearing last year, makikiusap. Then this hearing, hindi siya dadating. Oh. May I ask you, Sec. John? So ma'am, I'm not saying it's the best project. It's a great project. I'm saying it's transparent. In my view, it's a good project. It's been vetted. By the way, ma'am, we told the new secretary ng DA the same thing. Sir, pakitignan. Kung pangit, scrap nyo. Or if you can improve it, and say, no, it's nice and we can improve it. And the new secretary knows fisheries. Eh. So actually, they've been sending people, but baliktad eh. Yung imbis na yung LLDA ang naglalakad nito, and dahil nga, yung tinignan ko yung board of directors ng LLDA eh. Actually, if the CEO or the president of LLDA presents the projects nicely, and nandun na lahat ng departamento na kailangan mo yung approval eh. Eh baliktad eh, parang sinasabi sa amin, ayaw i-approve ng board. Eh problema, naging secretary, naging speaker din ako. So alam kong hindi ganun kasimple yon. Pag hindi bringing up sa board, paano mo i-approve? Diba? So ma'am, we're here. You don't even know, and Yusek doesn't even know. There's such a good project. So I was monitoring the whole morning your accomplishments. Realistically, this could have been one from LLDA, but I don't know why they sat on this project for, to be fair to the GM, I think the second year na nung administration siya nakaupo. Second or 1 year and a half. Oh, pero more than 1 year na siya kasi last year budget hearing, siya na po yung nandito. No? So anyway, let me leave at that muna. I want to go to a second issue lang. ASEC Jacqueline Kan? Yes. Sorry, ma'am. Kan. Okay. Ma'am, may papakita po ako sa inyo. Can you show the Can I show yung mga pinadlock na I don't know lahat kayo kung napanood nyo na yung commercial ni Mayor Abibi na yung better, di ba? Oh, kasi I'll show you what's happening in Embo and kayo na mag-judge kung better to o bitter. No. Can you show nga the pictures? So when the Supreme Court ruled that Embos are part of the territory of Taguig, I don't know if you are familiar with the story of King Solomon. Nung may dalawang ina na pumunta sa kanya at pinag-aagawan nila yung baby. So ang sabi ni King Solomon, hatiin na lang natin. So yung isang nanay sabi, sige. Yung isang nanay ang sinabi, wag. So sabi ni King Solomon, yung nanay na nagsabing wag hatiin, yun ang tunay na ina. Kasi walang ina na papayag na papahamak yung kanyang constituents. So to be fair to Mayor Lani, it was her decision. Walang permit po ang ospital ng Makati, but we're not closing it down. Ang ospital ng Makati inorderan or someone ordered them na, Madam Chair, na wag magkaroon ng MAIP or DSWD MOA. So yung mga taga-Embo ngayon cannot use a hospital in their own area. Ganon din ang pamantasan ng Makati. The pamantasan ng Makati, the land is not owned by Makati. But we have not done anything to hamper, to disrupt the studies of all students there. On the other hand, Mayor Binay padlocked all of the health centers. Initially, she padlocked the fire stations. Nung nagwala ako kay DLG Secretary Benhar na baka magkasunog dito, nakakandado lahat. He went to her personally and opened it up. So ayan po, South Sembo, nakakandado po yan. Nandiyan po yung mga lock. Pitogo, nakakandado po yan. Okay. West Rembo, nakakandado po yung health center dyan. Next. East Rembo, nakakandado po yung health center dyan. Next. Comembo, nakakandado po yung health center dyan. Okay, next. Pembo, nakakandado po yung health center dyan. Okay, so anyway, I won't bore you with the details, but aside from that, parks, health centers, covered courts, nakakandado lahat. So when you were Assistant Secretary, when you were Director, we asked you for certifications to ask kung may na-issue ng patent. Why did you drag your feet? Every 2 weeks, tinetext ka ng staff namin eh. From October last year to May, hindi mo kinilusan. How come? So that's why I showed you all of that, because these people are suffering, not directly because of you, it's because of the actions of Mayor Abi Binay, but here we're trying to remedy it. Nung last budget hearing, pumunta sa amin, we wrote you, then pumalit sa'yo si Director Matias, kumilos ka agad siya, then we told him na may mga problema, then did you resume ba? Or as, but from October to May, every 2 weeks, tinatanong ko sa staff ko ano na nangyari. Pinapakita niya sa aming Chief of Staff na tinetext ka niya, hindi kayo nag-issue. Anong problema? Is that the kind of service? I mean, kung Senate at Senador na nag-request sa'yo, hindi mo kinilusan, I wonder if it's an ordinary citizen. What would you do? How come you didn't act upon it? Or you don't even remember?
No, I remember, Madam Chair, the Honorable Senator of Alan Peter Cayetano. So we did na, when I was the DNR NCR Regional Executive Director, we proceeded with the issuance of all the residential free patent that had been completed in the process. So wala po ako.
Ma'am, huwag niyo kaming lituhin.
The-
Wala kaming pinapatigil o pinapatuloy na issuance. Ang tanong namin sa inyo, kasi ang sinasabi ni Mayor Abby Binay, sila may-ari ng mga yan. E nabuko namin sila sa DepEd na nakapangalan sa DepEd or wala pang patent or pending pa yung patent. So even yung office nyo yung pamantasan ng Makati, sinabi pending pa yung patent. So we ask you specifically, issue a certification kung alin ang may patent at anong wala. And you answered us, lahat yan walang patent. Pero you wouldn't issue the certification, which by law you're required to do. And I'm asking you now, why didn't you even write us back? Every 2 weeks, tinetext ka nung staff ko.
Apologies, the Honorable Senator, but there had been, when I was there had been continuous discussion on the legal aspect. And
Hindi nyo naman kailangan ng discussion, ma'am. Certification lang tinatanong namin sa inyo. Inisyu na ni Director Matias ngayon eh. Inisyu na ni Director Matias. Ang tanong lang, it is a factual question. We ask you, ma'am, pakitignan mo nga, may na-issue ba dyan na patent o hindi? Di ba meron tayong batas tungkol sa transparency? Di ba pag may nag-request sa inyo na ordinary citizen, you're required by law to answer? So kung halimbawa nag-away ang GSIS at ang Senate, kaninong building to? Nalaman ng Senate na hindi pala sa GSIS to. Hindi kami pwedeng pumunta sa inyo at magtanong na, ma'am, pakitignan nga kung ito'y lupang gobyerno, may patent ba ito? For the information of the Secretary, ma'am, proclaimed land kasi lahat to eh. Hindi naman po ito commercial land. So kasinungalingan yung sinasabi ni Mayor Binay sa TV, na yung sinasabi niyang, hindi kasi pag ang Makati bumili ng lupa sa Ortigas or sa Bulacan, syempre sa amin yon pero nasa Bulacan. Hindi to binili ng Makati. Ito ay prinoklaman ni President Marcos Sr. and then na-amendahan during President Cory's time. Kaya inaalam namin kanino napunta yung pangalan. Kung sa Makati, kasi ang pwede mag-apply under the proclamation is a LGU or anyone public use na qualified. So pwede yung city, pwedeng DepEd, pwede yung barangay. Ang tinatanong lang namin sa inyo, ma'am, meron bang patent? At hindi mo kami pinansin, dinedma mo kami. You want me to show in the screen lahat ng text dito? So in the meantime, all of these people are suffering. Kamag-anak ni Poncio Pilato yung secretary natin ng Department of Health. So imbis na puntahan si Mayor Binay at sabihin buksan yan, katulad ng ginawa ni Secretary Benhar, naghugas siya ng kamay, nagpadala sa DOJ ng hindi namin alam kung sino may-ari niyan. Kung in-issue mo sa amin yon, binigay namin sa kanya, alam nyo ba ma'am, mga bata na bagong panganak na kailangan ng bakuna, pinapadalan pa namin ng sasakyan everyday galing sa EMBO dun sa existing health center namin. So wala kayong pakialam? That's the effect. Did we have to explain to you this way? Does everyone asking for a certification from you have to explain this way to you? Hindi ba nasa batas naman na pag humingi sa inyo, magbigay kayo? I do not believe you're a bad person, ma'am. I do not know you. So I'll make no judgment. Pero sasagot mo pa lang kanina, ma'am the ongoing, etc. Hindi naman yun ang tinatanong namin next question, ma'am. I made my point there. Last year pa, sinabi nyo sa amin, pending yung application ng pamantasan ng Makati. Di ba? Tama? Correct? Please use the mic. Correct?
Yes po.
Are you familiar with the Supreme Court decision?
Yes po.
So now, is Makati qualified to apply for that land? Yes or no?
Based on the evaluation po, yes po.
Ang nakalagay sa proclamation, ang pwede lang
Tagig po.
Tagig.
Tagig.
So Makati has no right to apply, di ba?
Actually,
So you mean Parañaque can apply sa Signal Village sa Tagig?
no po.
Kasi ang proclamation sa Tagig lang, di ba?
Tagig.
So nung nag-rule ang Supreme Court, bakit hindi ka mapagbigay ng ng diretsong tanong? Sa proclamation, yung LGU lang ang pwedeng mag-apply, di ba? O, sino ba ang LGU ngayon? Taguig. So, pwede ba mag-apply ang Makati? Why can't you say no loudly, ma'am?
No, actually po, just want to,
No,
to
you can explain later, but answer me yes or no so that I know. Oh, yes or no? Can Makati apply for an area in Embo?
no po.
No. So why haven't you denied their application? You can explain, yes.
Actually po, it was a process then that we were reviewing. That's why I sought also opinion from the legal and everything po, no? And then, yun pong end of pipe na yun, na naalis na ako dun sa NCR. Kaya po because of the process that we did in the review po. And then we sought also
Okay, but ma'am,
advice from the
ay puputulin ko yun doon, ha? Anyone here na mamumuliti ka, i-ignore nyo. But it's a simple legal question. Burahin mo yung Taguig, burahin mo yung Makati, burahin mo yung Cayetano, burahin mo yung Binay. Just follow the law. The law says that it's the LGU na may jurisdiction kung apply. The Supreme Court said it's Taguig. It's 1 year already na binbin sa inyo. So this is causing many problems. You want us to go through litigation for another 30 years. So, Madam Secretary, may I ask that we look into this? And, you know, I tell that to my staff. When I was in DFA, I tell that to my staff when I was the speaker. Do not come to me with names. Come to me with the facts, the legal issue, diba? And the opinion. Kasi pag nilagyan mo pa ng facts, sinabi mong, sir, etong bill na to, sponsor si Senator Villar. Siyempre, mahal ko po yan. Para kong nanay yan. Para kong ate. So pag sinabi Senator Villar, bias ka agad ako for. Diba? Pero pag sinabing, sir, yung bill na to, ganito, maganda. O saka ko tatanungin, sinong author? Diba? So what's the problem with us asking for certifications and everything? By the way, Madam Secretary, in-issue na ni Director Matias. We're just going through it today. We don't want you involved in any politics. We want Congress and the Senate to respect you. But it's factual eh. Ang tanong lang namin, etong lupa na to, meron bang patent o wala? Kung meron, penging kopya. Kung wala, bakit wala? And that's all public records. Diba? But ASEC, I'm not, as I said, I'm not judging you as a person because I don't know you. Pero hindi ayos na October to May. And if you ask me now, ba't ngayon lang ako umangal? Baka tama, baka mali. Sabi ng staff ko, sir, pabayaan mo na ma-promote kasi kay Director Matias gumagalaw eh. Kay ma'am, hindi eh. Hindi kami sinasagot minsan pag tinetext eh. Di ba? Do we need a department order to say? Or do I have to text you myself bago ka sumagot? Kasi medyo busy ako ng ma'am ng konti. Marami din ako committees, marami din ako responsibility. After this, we have to have a press con about the new Senate building. So it's not easy. Do I have to text you myself or will you respect us if staff namin? Sir Yusek, by the way, Chief of Staff ko mismo ang nagdi-deal na rin kay GM. Hindi ordinary, hindi staff to staff. Chief of Staff ko mismo. Siguro naman sa Senate po, ma'am, after us, maybe our COMSEC or our Chief of Staff, sila na po yung alter ego namin kasi isa lang katawan namin eh, di ba? So I'd just like to put an emphasis on that. If you were afraid, ma'am, na kawawa mga taga-Embo if you gave the certification, etc., okay lang eh. But you've seen, Taguig has always put first the interest of the people. We have not closed down anything. We have supported them. On the other hand, nagsasuffer yung taga-Embo. Muntik na nga sila hindi pinayagan magboto eh. Di ba? So, Madam, I've taken up much time but I want to take up lang yung sa reclamation. I asked the DPWH. So sabi ko sa DPWH, at Tita Cynthia, sabi ko, Madam Chair, some people say that all reclamations are bad. Some say, no, if you do it the right way, it's okay. And of course, I've been to Hong Kong and Singapore, and they've grown in land area. And although lately, dahil sa massive difference sa climate change, may baha na rin. But in the 80s, 90s, early 20s, parang okay naman yung reclamation. So ang tinanong ko kay Secretary, does the DPWH evaluate the plans in terms of the engineering part? Sabi niya, no, they have nothing to do with it. So, ang question ko, ma'am, DNR does these studies sa environmental side, tama po ba? How about sa engineering side of it, ma'am? Diba? I mean, kasi diba, you can have a ECC saying that basically, pag nag-ano ka dito, it won't be perfect, but it's acceptable sa environment. But, ididikit mo ba sa lupa? May channel ba? Saan nakaharap? Saan ilalagay yung kalye? Lalagyan mo ba ng labasan yon? I mean, I'll be more than happy to accept an answer na hindi DNR if we don't know. I'm just trying to find out. Kasi nung bumaha ng husto, may mga nagbintang sa reclamation. To be fair to them, I don't think it's only that. But just to be sure, I also want to make sure that, kasi pag tapos na yon, nagawa na, napakalaking pera na, hindi mo na mababago yung how they do it, di ba ma'am? And I'm a little bit familiar sa Laguna Lake. When Secretary Villar decided to do the road dike, 1,100 hectares was left outside. So, yun ang ngayon na nag-erode at yun yung nire-recover nung iba. So, there were three things he could have done. Yung napakalayo that cost much but it was in the water, then may reclamation. Or sa gitna, nasakop na yung 1-1, or yung present, then they promised, not Secretary Villar himself, but the DPWH, they promised polder dikes that were cheaper. But like, as usual, pag nagawa na yung main project, nakakalimutan yung iba eh. So I'm concerned, the whole Manila Bay, di ba? But not so much, a little bit sa Bulacan, but not so much kasi nga sa billion na ginagastos not only for the reclamation but for the airport. Wala naman silang choice to make sure na maganda yung engineering kasi hindi naman pwedeng, di ba, mag-liquefy o bumaksak yung airport. So I'm sure they're really looking into that. Pero yung ibang reclamation na lupa pa lang muna, na real estate, di ba? So kung ikaw gagawa ng bahay doon, ikaw magso-soil test and everything. But the location, the engineering, the science of it all, no? Sino ma'am in charge to look at that part of it?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator. The initial submissions from the proponents are given to the PRA. The PRA will then determine whether or not these projects are suitable for further implementation, upon which they will be guided then to obtain the necessary environmental clearance from the DNR. There are committees expert committees that are brought in to review the plans, Mr. Senator. So this would be the basis to respond to your question on whether the engineering actually would be appropriate for the kind of impacts that this project would have on the ecology of the area.
And on the present, at least sa Manila Bay, because you suspended it for a while and got experts, medyo natignan yon.
What has been was suspended, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, by the OP, by the Office of the President. What we are looking at now is the compliance review of the documentation that has been submitted. And we are also producing a cumulative impact assessment, Mr. Senator, Madam Chair, which we deem absolutely imperative to have in order to then evaluate the suitability of the type of engineering that was proposed at the time of the submission to the PRA.
I'm happy, ma'am, with your answer. Ang point ko lang naman in all of this is that we've seen di ba? So for example, ang isang medyo ongoing discussion with DNR is that should DNR be the protector of the environment, pero siya din nag-i-issue ng licenses, let's say, sa mining, di ba? So, because like sa US, may EPA nga ba yung, di ba? But of course, that's also not a perfect system, di ba? Minsan naman, you have presidents railing at EPA na they're holding it back, kaya taas ng presyo ng gasolina nila and everything. So wala namang perfectong sistema. Ang point ko lang, ma'am, we want to get to the point na pag may government approval, people can sleep 100% na 50 years from now or 25 years from now, walang mangyayari na will regret and sabihin hindi kasi naayos, no? So with that answer, I'll ask also PPA, no, if they have the technical capability to, the the technical capability. Kasi nga, iba kasi ma'am, di ba yung sabihin mo lang 50 hectares, 200 hectares dito, but ano talaga yung forma ng 200 hectares na yon? And let's say sa dulo nung doon, how will you, di ba, what kind of engineering enhancements or interventions will you use? So kung may river na palabas doon, di ba, will you, and just for the public who's listening, Madam Chair, no? Kasi nga, as a young public servant, I wasn't knowledgeable about that. So when they were building so much things in Taguig, of course, we were happy. But nung bumabaha na, doon lang in-explain sa amin ng urban planners na kahit bukid yun, meron yung pang ano ng water, di ba? That's why like now, we're insistent dun sa water retention ng bawat building para nga hindi lahat pumapasok doon. So I just don't know kung, kasi if you just follow the building code, medyo okay na yon. But like BGC, many people don't know. That's why it's more, we have a separate ordinance and a higher standard than the building code with density and of course the Americans built yung water retention area, etc. No? So I just want to make sure, ma'am, na we do our part to make sure that all this, by the time na maganda na lahat yan, unless may dugong enrili ka that you're blessed to live 100 years to see, di ba, yung mga nangyari, I don't know if I'll be here to see these reclamations be like Makati, Ortigas, BGC. I hope I will be. But I don't want na magsisi nun na ang ganda nga dun, bumaha naman dito, etc. No? So that goes to my second question, ma'am. When I asked DPWH, they're still studying the Pasig River Highway, the highway on top of the Pasig River. And our Bishop Milo of the Catholic Church and many NGOs, have brought up concerns to us. And I was wondering, is DNR also looking into that or tapos na kayo or wala pa sa inyo?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator. It hasn't come to us yet in this regard. But if I may also respond to your other comments, Mr. Senator, Madam Chair. One of the points I raised yesterday in the 55th anniversary of the LLDA was this issue of adaptive environmental governance. And at the end of the day, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, adaptive environmental governance needs to be driven by the science that is available and that is projected into the future because of the different changes we expect po. So it's really in the equipping and technical capacity building of our own DNR as well as the LLDA po that can be used as an anticipatory capacity to actually foresee what the problems might be in terms of the proposed interventions infrastructure-wise into the different bodies of water. Having said that, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, we have been actively pushing for the master planning of the entire Laguna Lake, which would, I think at this point, having been shown the plan, Mr. Senator, I think these are very important inputs to that new master plan. That will take into consideration all the different uses that are now present, including the floating solar, which are around 2,000 hectares, Mr. Senator, and of course the fisheries component, which is with the DA and BIFAR. But the industrial uses and the land use changes, including all the way to the building code designs, which I think that you would be at the forefront, Mr. Senator, in terms of going beyond the standard to actually anticipate the potential impacts, especially due to climate change. And so we would be very happy to work with your office, Mr. Senator, Madam Chair.
Thank you with that, Madam Secretary. And siguro yung may I also read a little bit, or when you do come out with reports dun sa Manila Bay reclamation, because one of the unintended consequence there is more crowding in Metro Manila. So I do understand why economically, financially, it's feasible. Kasi for the same peso per peso, mas malaki talaga profit sa Metro Manila, and all the infrastructure is here, malapit sa airport, and Manila Bay is Manila Bay. Diba? It's one of the most beautiful bays in the world. Diba? The Sunset have launched many courtships and proposed marriage proposals and everything. But having said that, kita mo sa BGC ang ganda As soon as you get outside, yung traffic, etc. Because nga, may unintended consequences. So even if the actual reclamation is okay, vis-a-vis the whole Metro Manila and the whole, I mean, if you look at the map, di ba? Nagsiksikan talaga lahat ng Pilipino dun sa pinakamakitid sa Metro Manila. That's why we should really go towards Bicol and go towards Nueva Ecija, Rizal, etc. Having said that, ma'am, hindi ba, may I propose lang, I mean, or ask you as a favor to bring it up sa cabinet cluster, hindi ba dapat baliktad kung may proposal, katulad ng Parex, dapat DNR muna? Kasi kung mauna yung engineering at saka yung financial, tapos kontrabida na naman yung environment. Kasi like so I'm following, meron akong nagugustuhan na urban planner na nasa, I didn't ask him permission, hindi ko siya kilala personally, so I won't mention his name, but na-mention ko sa isang hearing, but I was following yung kanyang Facebook. Tapos pinapakita niya na sa South Korea, one of their major rivers, meron nang highway sa taas, tinanggal pa nila because marami silang findings. Yung sunlight lang, ma'am, di ba? If you take out the sunlight from the river, di ba? And, you know, if you read Jose Rizal's writings, from the Pasig River, going dun sa amin, sa Napindan, going to Calamba, dyan yung ang tabo, di ba? Yung boat and everything. So, and pinapaganda nga ngayon yung Pasig River, di ba? So, I was really wondering, kaya lang nakita ko in my, I don't mean to hit anyone or anything, pero, you know, whether it's a giant museum, it's a giant airport, it's a giant mall, even the Senate building. Pag lahat kompleto na yan, tapos may problema ka sa environment, let's say puputol ka ng puno, to follow na lang yan. Pero kung nauna yung environment, sandali sir, 1,000 yung puno dyan, hanap muna tayo ng iba. Mabilis din humanap ng iba. Kasi hindi niya sasabihin, ma'am, gumastos na kami ng 50 million sa ganito. Ang aming studies, 100 million, ganito. Diba? So, baka kailangan, ma'am, baliktarin. Which goes to my last point about so during the time of President Noynoy Aquino, they were almost bidding already yung C6. All the way from, I'm not sure kung Calamba or longer, all the way to Taytay Rizal. Last minute lang po, umayaw yung mga bidders because naglagay sila ng contingent liability na kung masira yon or bumaha, yung kung sino man manalo has to pay. And that was a deal breaker during that time. So nagulat ako na meron pong ina-approve ngayon from San Pedro, Laguna, up to Bicutan, Taguig. Pero uutangin na sa ADB. So since si Yusek Leones ang nasa LLDA, has this been brought already to the attention of LLDA? Hindi pa. According to DPWH, last budget hearing, pinag-aaralan pa. January, hindi na daw tuloy. Nakita ko sa Facebook, pinapropose na, then the President mentioned it already. So I brought it up in the budget hearing ng DPWH. They're still studying it now. So I just wanted to know, Yusek, was it brought up na to LLDA?
Perhaps, good Senator, you're referring to the Laguna Lake Road Network?
Yes.
The phase 1. I think there's already ongoing activities there per LLDA. And we review it. The DPWH appeared before the board and justified, and it's a priority project of the government. So it's already
So
done deal.
I won't debate with you, and if it's a done deal, then I'll take it up with DPWH. Marami kasi yun so I don't know which one's phase 1, but I'm talking about San Pedro to because nga Sa akin, kung dati i-PPP nila, bakit ngayon uutangin? So nung tinanong ko si Secretary, hindi, baka i-bid nila later on. So sa akin, medyo nahilo ako sa ganun sistema. But having said that, during the administration of President Aquino, we studied that. And if you have ganung kalaking road network, you either have, kailangan mo buhayin yung Parañaque Spillway, kung saan yung tubig alat at yung tubig can go back and forth from Laguna Lake back to Manila Bay, or bubutasan mo yung Rizal Mountains going to the Pacific. And in fact, we proposed a funding for that. Na mag-reclaim kayo pang real estate, but aside from a real property tax, because that will be really an expensive property on the lake, put parang a sinking fund or a floating fund, to not use sinking, no? A fund that will go to pay for that. Ang point ko doon kasi, Yusek, I know you have no power to stop DPWH, but you have the power to say whether it's good or not for the lake. We always put the first project na economically and financially viable to follow yung environmental, and it doesn't come because it's expensive. So ubusin muna natin fossil fuels, gamitin natin yung pera para linisin. Walang pera para linisin. That's why dun tayo sa clean energy, no? So can you take a second look at that? And I will ask DPW, dahil sabi nila sa akin, hindi. Unang-una, wala silang kakabitan sa Bikutan because, not to make excuses, Madam Chair, but yung kanto sa Lower Bikutan, I live there eh. So dati yon 3-minute drive. Ngayon, it's about 15 to 30 minutes doon lang. And I sent Secretary of DPWH a drone shot of gaano kapuno yun. So sabi ko sa kanya, kung ikakabit niyo yung highway doon, yun po pinalapad ni Secretary Mark yun from 4 lanes to 8 lanes o 6 lanes. Pero hindi ka pwede maglagay ng overpass doon dahil dadaan sa DOST. At ang DOST hindi pumayag sa subway doon because yung vibrations will affect all their laboratories there. So I was telling Secretary of DPWH, sir, kung may iba kang lalabasan, kasi yung proposal during Duterte's time, 1,600 ancestral homes naman ang tatamaan. That's why Secretary Mark, pinagbigyan ako na ilipat na lang ito dito sa General Santos. Hopefully na pwede doon. But after the pandemic, dumami na yung kotse. So sa amin is both traffic and being sensitive to our constituents, Camp Bagundiwa, PUP Taguig, DOST, but also the environment. If we keep building roads along the Laguna Lake, but wala yung tunay na what do you call that, ma'am, yung dredging, di ba? And then hindi nakakapasok yung tubig alat. It's an ecological disaster. It won't be 25 or 50 years, baka 10, 15 years pa lang from now. The road dike, ma'am, nung ginawa yon, sabi, there's no way na aabot yung tubig doon. Pero nakadalawang storm na parang 1 foot na lang. Pero before that, it was more than, I think it was 1.5 meters or something, yung taas ng road dike, di ba? So the climate and the ecology environment is changing. Dati, ma'am, yung isang engineering intervention last probably 50, 100 years. Now, mas mabilis yung ecological change than the engineering intervention. So kung hindi tama yung engineering intervention, minsan 10, 15 years lang, iba na. So can I request that you look into that? And can I thank you and the chair? Asek, pasensya ka na. I mean, there's no doubt I'm emotional about that issue kasi kawawa mga tao. But I'll stop there, but I hope you learned your lesson na people don't have to explain to you what they need it for. Just do it. Di ba? Yes, please. Go ahead. Yeah, you want to say something? Go ahead, ma'am. Yeah.
If I may po,
Yes.
I would just like to apologize for the delay, but just to clarify po some points, although it's not an excuse na ma-delay po yung pagsagot po sa inyo, including of course sa mga messages ni Chief of Staff po ninyo, no? But it was a process po wherein nagkaroon nga sa internal po ng mga, naghingi ako din ng advice sa legal, and then but I was looking at the document po kasi hindi ho ako nag-uupo ng papel eh. Senator. So,
Ma'am,
nangyari po September.
Magpaliwanagan lang tayo together, ma'am. But I'll tell you what happened, ha. Your office communicated already to us. Sinabi na, tinignan na namin, walang patents on several areas. So, simple lang yung request namin.
Yes po.
Put it on writing, you did not. So, let's not waste na the time. Mag-usap na lang tayo
Yes,
because I
Senator.
just want it
Yes
to be
po.
an example that
Apo.
let's not allow it to happen. Now, if you're saying that there were some regulations, etc., regulations tayo din gumagawa nun. Kung may mali sa regulations ng DNR, palitan nyo. Yung batas, wala kayong choice, kami.
Yes po.
So kung nakalagay sa batas, you cannot issue a certificate within 30 days, wala kang magagawa. Eh wala namang ganung batas, ma'am eh.
Yes po, Senator.
Thank you.
The original.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Senator, Madam Chair. We will take this matter up internally and also communicate with you on the resolution po of this. Thank you so much, Mr. Senator. Just to speak to your final points.
I just want to make a comment on that Parañaque spillway. Kasi yan, project yan ng Public Works long time ago to be done by JICA, I think. Alam mo, ayaw nang pumayag nung Muntinlupa kasi sisirain ng isa nilang barangay. Isang barangay ng Muntinlupa. Ayaw din pumayag ng Parañaque kasi bumabaha na sa Parañaque. At ayaw rin namin pumayag kasi bumabaha na yung Manila Bay. Tapos dadagdagang pagkaling from Laguna Lake. Walang gustong pumayag dyan sa spillway na yan. Kung gusto nyo maglagay ng spillway, dalhin nyo dun sa Pacific Ocean. Doon kayo gumawa ng way. Huwag sa amin kasi malaki na rin ang problema namin sa Manila Bay. Ang Bacoor, grabe na baha kami. Kaya kami ayaw ng reclamation. Kami babaha. 6 to 8 meters na ang prediction sa amin pag pinayagan namin ng reclamation. At mamamatay lahat ang mangrove namin kasi because of Manila Bay water, brackish water ang mangrove. It's a combination of salty water and fresh water. The fresh water comes from a river. The salty waters comes from Manila Bay. Kung tinambakan na yung Manila Bay, patay lahat ang mangrove namin sa Las Piñas, Parañaque Wetland Park. So talagang out of the question na yan eh. So,
Ma'am, I agree with you and I'll give the Secretary the last word. But I forgot to say, I also favor yung Pacific. And in fact, will propose a funding from the reclamation. But having said that, nabanggit nyo yung comprehensive development plan ng LLDA. I commit to help work for that funding if by the time you get to the plenary, I mean, if it's ADB or JICA type that sila magfa-fund, etc. But kung, if it's 50 or 100 million, ang balik sa atin yan is not only a billion, hundreds of billions, baka much more. So I'll personally be more than happy to push for X amount, but give us an idea lang, ma'am, of something of that magnitude. Ano yung funds? And secondly, please, Yusek Jonas, i-compare mo yung BCDA law sa LLDA law. That's what we're doing, and I talked to Senator Chairman Mark, who took over the committee on government corporations. But I'm working on BCDA and LLDA pa rin. Ako pa rin yung vice chairman in charge. But, BCDA, grabe ang development, but they were given some things na hindi binigay sa LLDA. No? So baka it's time also with the master plan na ma-amend yung LLDA law. So ma'am, you can have the last word, but thank you for listening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Senator. I just wanted to share also that as part of the cumulative impact assessment of the reclamation projects in Manila Bay, we have engaged a regional planner to also, so you mentioned, Mr. Senator, yung urban planning, and we have actually engaged as part of the cumulative impact assessment team, a regional planner to look at the impact of these proposed reclamation projects on the regional load of people, solid waste, water, power, in order to say what would really be needed in order to sustain if this were to go through. So our regional planner po, if I may share, as part of the Marine Science Institute's team, is Dr. Arturo Corpus, who is with the UP, and he is producing the regional planning implications and options for the creation of new urban and regional spaces as opposed to the proposed projects po. So thank you very much po. And thank you, sir, for your offer to support the master plan. That's very well noted. Thank you very much po, Mr. Senator.
Connection, I just want to ask, what's happening to the review of Manila Bay reclamation? Is it going forward na merong mangyayari na, or wala pa ring decision on what is good for Manila Bay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The cumulative impact assessment is nearing completion. We were asked to give a little bit of an extension to the UP Marine Science Institute. And we will also be producing a 3D visualization of the potential impact so it can be shown to the decision making as well as to the communities concerned. And so when that is completed po, and we anticipate it will be completed around November, we hope to be able to present that to the Office of the President. Yes po. The Office of the President, since it was their directive po for that impact assessment to be done. And then the OP will then take the decision po on how to move forward.
Ma'am, one point lang on that. It might not be an environmental, it might be, or it might be an aesthetic thing. Kasi fan ako ng Sofitel but wala na tayong nagawa. But I was surprised na GSIS naman pala na may-ari nung lupa ng Sofitel. So kasi kung ako ang GSIS, nagreklamo ako sa reklamasyon kung bakit doon hinarang, because there's a US Supreme Court case wherein a chicken farm tinabihan ng airport. Alam to ni Yusek Kuna because we share the same law school. But di ba, the chicken farm, hindi na nangitlog sa ingay ng mga eroplano. So sabi ng US Supreme Court, because nauna yung chicken farm or poultry, kaso sa airport, di ba, entitled sila sa damage. So kaya ka nga nagpapakasal doon, kaya ka nga nag-anniversary sa Sofitel kasi kaharap mo yung dagat. No? So ang point ko lang, if yung, I know it'll be more expensive, but actually mag-gain yung mga nagre-reclaim. If they move it ng konti at may channel ka na, so of course you'll have to pay more for the, yung repropping there, whatever you call that, di ba? And of course you'll need bridges. But can you imagine the beauty din nung place and then yung ikot din nung tubig? So yun po ang sinasabi ko na if we don't do it earlier, di ba? Hindi na natin makakahabol 25 years from now. But this review, baka sakaling stressful man sa mga nagre-reclaim ngayon. Pero kung gumanda din naman development nila, di ba? So that's why I pity yung mga, even yung mga hotel di ba, na kaya ka nga gumawa, nandun So I don't even know about the regulations ng Pasay at saka ng Manila. Kasi may mga ibang cities in the world, no? Ang kanilang bibigyan ng permit, di ba? The closer you are to the water, mas mababa ka. Tapos the further, mas mataas. So that pati dito nabebenta, tapos yung penthouse dito nakikita. So may konting regulation, not later on. Pag tinayo mo pa lang, ganun na. So nako-compute din ng negosyante, di ba ma'am? No.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator. So just for an update po, the reclaimed area that was stuck to the seawall is now going to be removed to the distance of 400 meters away from the seawall po. So that is ongoing. We had recommended that to the proponent, Pasay City, and they were able to implement together with their partner. So from the Coconut Palace to the end po, there will be a 400-meter wide channel po. So, thank you po. Thank you po.
Let's say, like us, the DPWH predicted that if we will have reclamation, kasi yung amin iba Kobe, so we only have a 6.5 kilometers difference from the seawall of Bacoor and the seawall of Las Piñas, and yung amin legislated protected area pa. It's only 6.5 kilometers. Cove pa yun. Saan nadadaan ng tubig? We have 4 rivers coming out of our river And then there's another two river coming out of Bacoor. Where will they go? So,
So ma'am, that's part of our community impact assessment work po in terms of the circulation and flow of not just the water po, but also the pollutants in the water, as well as the biological implications for the fisheries and the mangroves. So circulation of water, yung physical components, chemical, biological, are part of that actual
sa
study
amin,
po.
very limited ang space. Kasi
Opo.
unlike yung Manila, yung Pasay, they go straight to, ano yun, Atlantic Ocean ba yun? O yung pinupunta nila, wala silang baharang eh. Kami, it's a cove eh.
Opo.
So, we are limited to that 6.5 kilometers and Cavite has 2 rivers, kami 4 rivers. Where will the water go?
So ma'am, that's part of our modeling po that we're doing now in the community impact assessment, the physical movement of the water po.
And then,
And we hope-
to make it worse, it's a legislated protected
Yes,
area pa.
Yes,
And we have to preserve our mangrove
Yes.
and our bird sanctuary.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Ma'am, on that point lang, I'm sure the experts are doing it na, but just as kung redundancy man yung sinabi ko, allow me to be redundant. Yung gamitin na lang data yung last 2 years, di ba? Kasi kung gagamitin lang data, let's say sa rainfall, sa amount of water, if they use the last 20, 25 years, sobra ng, just the last habagat, di ba? Who, right after the SONA, even when we had, nagkaroon tayo, Madam Chair, ng habagat na walang pasok din sa Senate ng 1 week. It was, I think, during Senate President Enriquez' time. Grabe din yun. And we thought that was already, and that was the first time na yung sa both Manila Bay and, well, first time at least that I saw it, and sa Sofitel na tinamaan na yung, diba, that's why they had to repair yung sa may Manila Bay, dito sa may Rojas Boulevard. So I think if they average it, it still won't work. They really have, I don't know the science, but I think the last 3 years is a better indication of what, and di ba ma'am, assuming extreme yung last 3 years. Kung extreme pa rin the next 20 years, safe pa rin tayo. But assuming bumalik sa dati at mas konti, then we just overbuilt. Walang mawawala. So may I just say that, and if it's redundant, okay lang. But if hindi, if they're using a 10-year, 15 years, especially kung foreigners, kasi meron silang standard dyan na 10-year o 15-year na sa studies nila. Pero iba talaga the last 3 years. So pag in-average nila, bababa yung standards natin eh.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator. So typically po ang ginagawa, to look at the normal and to look at the extreme so that you have scenarios po in terms of the planning decision making po.
But di ba ma'am, the new normal is the extreme eh.
Opo.
So that's the problem. So even if you say na it's once every year na lang, but still buong Metro Manila, halos buong Cavite, halos buong Bulacan, di ba? I mean, sa Bulacan, Bulacan's not known for flooding, but then suddenly every year, di ba?
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator. We will make sure that the extremes are in fact incorporated, and that is really one of the scenarios po. Thank you po, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator.
Thank you po.
Okay. I guess we have done a lot, and I just want to summarize our concerns. Of course, the concern of Senator Cayetano with regards to their question on aquaculture hub, EMBO issuance, reclamation, asking for River Highway and the Pasig River Highway and the Parañaque Spillway, and of course the question of Senator Estrada on the Hinutuan Mining Corporation, and of course our general concerns during the hearing. We have to. I'm particularly interested to review the budget of the legislated protected area because it was cut and it's now 114 going 124. So I thought that we should review that That's very small relative to what it has been when it was only 13 legislated protected area. And of course, the budget of LUA, the list of waterways going to Manila Bay, the list of composters and tracers that you have distributed, the EPR implementation, and the potential salt production area, the loss and damage farm study, fund study, and I'm also concerned about the wastewater, the water agency reorganization. I'm concerned about that. And what is the implication of if we pass the tree planting bill on your budget on the greening, diba? And of course, I'm very interested what would be the outcome of the study in Manila Bay. So with that,
Madam Chair, and can I just find out, GM Santiago, anong excuse niya? Why isn't he here?
Sorry, Senator, we have been calling him, but it seems that
But
he's so busy.
I
But we'll try to,
Secretary,
we'll
but
take that.
the whole department, if this was in the House or my earlier version of me deferred yung budget, but you should not be punished for someone who, but ganun yung attitude, so please look into it. No?
Yes.
And sa plenary, he cannot be absent.
wish to inform the senator that we are not approving the budget today. We are suspending the hearing of the budget until these requirements are fulfilled, and then we'll schedule another hearing. So we have to finish all this that we want to clarify, diba?
So maybe, Madam Chair, he can be here the next hearing and be accountable. No, again, I'm not holding the whole LLDA. I think there's a problem with him or his attitude with projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and well noted, and Mr. Senator, well noted.
We extend our gratitude to the senators, DNR officials, and other guests who participated in today's budget hearing. Although today's discussion has provided us with valuable insights, we believe additional time is needed to address the remaining questions. So therefore, we will schedule another hearing after this. We are suspending the hearing.
Thank you.